Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and television and all sorts of good stuff. And speaking about good stuff, it's Mr. Good Stuff himself, our existential Mr. Rogers in the neighborhood, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, John, good morning. It's so fantastic to be here for another wonderful episode of the John Campea Show. Do we have anything to talk about today? I don't know. I think we got movie news falling from heaven, John.
We have movie news falling from heaven. And listen, there are going to be some people here, Rob, that are going to be wondering, they're looking in the description of this video and they're saying, hey, wait a minute, you're going to talk about the Golden Globe results, right? Fuck no. No, I'm not talking about the Golden Globes results. I don't give a crap about the Golden Globes. They're a useless paperweight. But I will say, look, I've always said this about the Golden Globes, though. I've always said this about the Golden Globes. They put on a great show. They do. Actually, I'll go so far as to say they put on a better show than the Oscars do. Now, the one thing that I watched, because I am married to Anne, the one thing I had to watch was the Tom Hanks Cecil B. DeMille thing. And listen, a full credit to the good folks over the Golden Globes. The one thing they always, their Cecil B. DeMille thing is always handled really classy and done very well. And I've always appreciated their recipients. And last night was no exception. My wife was bawling 2 minutes into the Tom Hanks thing. And when Charlize Theron was up there and telling that story, I was kerfuffled. I was tense. I was saying, and Tom Hanks said, "You know what, Charlize, just hold on a second. I need to take 5 minutes." And she says, "He didn't need 5 minutes. He knew I needed 5 minutes."
By the way, can we just talk?
Anne instantly starts crying and bawling her eyes out.
Can we just talk about Charlize Theron for just 1 minute? Let's just have a moment of silence for how unbelievably awesome her dress was, how incredibly beautiful she is.
Oh yeah,
and that story. I mean, my God, classic Hollywood. Is there a more beautiful woman working today in the movies? I don't know. But that story had me teared up, John.
And when they showed the montage of Tom Hanks's career.
Oh, what a great... By the way,
well done.
Shouts out to all of the montages. Whoever was cutting the montages, they did a phenomenal job. That Tom Hanks montage touched on everything. And you know what? Big ups to the Love Boat last night. The big winner, the Love Boat.
That was a great line from Hanks. How many here have the Love Boat as a part of your clip package? No, that was really, really good.
And
so
Kathy
look,
Bates apparently raised her hand. I was on.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He pointed at her and said, "You, Kathy, you did it." I am not a fan of the Golden Globes. I don't care. Their voting results to me are completely meaningless. They mean nothing. It's 70 people who just happen to be film journalists who work for foreign outlets, but they live in the U.S. It's a weird little thing. I don't give a lot of weight to it, so that's just me. But give credit where it's due. That whole Tom Hanks thing was great, and they normally put on a really, really good show. And so there's that. Hey, listen, guys. We do have a couple things to talk about here off the top. Actually, one thing in particular that we need to talk about off the top. And that, Rob, is this. Back in 1983, the first trailer for New Mutants came out. It was 83, right? It feels like it was as long ago as 1983. The first trailer for New Mutants came out. And it actually, a lot of people liked what they saw. It was very different, much like what Fox was doing. They were doing really different, right up until they got bought out by Disney. Fox was doing some really interesting and very experimental things with their comic book stuff. If you go from Deadpool, Logan, and then they were rolling to do something else completely different with New Mutants, a horror take on the comic book genre. Well, of course, then there were delays and a lot of questions, Rob, about whether this movie was ever even going to see the light of day, whether this thing was ever even going to come out. We heard then affirmations that, yes, it's coming out in April and all that kind of stuff. We heard a new trailer was coming. And Rob, today, a brand new trailer for the New Mutants came out and hit. And I will tell you what, I'm a big fan of the trailer. I like this trailer very, very much. It very much, to me, fulfilled the promise of mixing some classical comic book movie tropes in with some classical horror. And to me, it really did deliver that. Because I'm going to admit, when they first said, Rob, that we're going to do a comic book / horror, I'm like, yeah, you're going to have a horror element or two in there, but it's going to be a comic book movie. This trailer made it feel like, first and foremost, a horror film, and secondly, a comic book film. And listen, if you take out all the years of drama that we've had surrounding this project, I kind of feel like if I just saw this trailer for the first time today completely cold and I didn't know about all the drama, I'd probably be even more enthusiastic about it right now. Because my enthusiasm is being tempered a bit by all the drama that I know went on. But honestly, I thought this was not the best trailer that I've seen in the last 8 months or anything, but I thought it was a very solid trailer. And if the job of a trailer, as we're always saying, Rob, is to take your enthusiasm, no matter how high it is or how low it is, and bump it up a couple of notches, then it's mission accomplished, because I thought this trailer did a really good job of that. Rob, you had a chance to watch this trailer for New Mutants. What did you think about it?
Dude, if I can make an X-Men joke that some people will get, I thought this trailer was full of a whole lot of magic. Get it?
I get it.
But here's the thing. When I started reading comic books again in the 80s, as everyone has heard me wax rhapsodic about for forever, the Moon Knight, the Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz Moon Knight was what got me into reading comics. And one of the most interesting artistic evolutions happened in the pages of that comic with Sienkiewicz's work. And after he finished and Kevin Nolan took over, he jumped over to New Mutants. And he took, which was, sort of an X-Men clone. There was nothing particularly special about New Mutants. It was fine. But when he came on board and his evolving art style sort of was unleashed, and the Demon Bear storyline, which is one of the first things he drew for Chris Claremont, it was such a groundbreaking, from the covers to the interior art. I mean, it was a really exciting thing to actually be reading that comic book at the time. And when I was watching this trailer this morning, I'm like, I can't believe that I'm seeing this. I mean, they've promised it. I felt like it's been dangled in front of me, like I'm a donkey walking up a long, dusty mountain road, and I'm trying to get that carrot. They've dangled the carrot in front of me literally for years. And I watched this trailer at the end when the soul sword starts to manifest on Illyana's hand. I was like squeeing, like the little kid I was, and still am deep inside. And I'm looking at this going, this is what I wanted to see from this film. I love all the characters, all the casting of the movie is perfect. Illyana Rasputin is Colossus's sister. Colossus, from Deadpool. And there's so many ties to the, I would say that I was going to make another X-Men joke saying Sienkiewicz's reign over the New Mutants, about Rain Sinclair, but seeing everybody, Maisie Williams, it just, as a longtime X-Men fan, I was watching this trailer going, I am so excited to see this. And again, I'm all about authorship, and it looks like Boone just crushed this. And at the end, seeing the glimpses of the Demon Bear, I'm like, this is right out of a panel of Sienkiewicz's artwork. And I'm just like, man, somebody nailed this. And why has it been sitting on a shelf, John? Why have I not been able to, 2 years of my life have passed without this movie in it. And I feel like I'm not a fully formed human being, but now I'll be just as fully formed as the Demon Bear is, or maybe isn't. And I can't wait, dude.
Yeah, I listen, I thought they did a pretty damn good job with it. I did. Again, not like the best trailer I've seen in the last like 5 years or anything like that. But listen, considering how much of an unmitigated bloody mess this thing looked like with all the reshoots, the delays, and then the Disney transfer, and then are they going to do something with it? Aren't they going to do something with it? It's understandable that some of us still have some of our expectations a little bit tempered. But listen, guys, I wanted to know what you guys thought about this New Mutants trailer. So we're going to make that the topic of today's question of the day. Now, just before we started the show, I put up a poll on my Twitter, and you can follow me on Twitter simply at John Campea, asking you guys, what did you think about it? And here's what you guys had to say. About 1,600 of you guys have already voted on it. And right now, it looks like 89% of you are saying you at least kind of liked it. So right now, 36.5% of you guys are saying it was great. 52% of you are saying it was okay. And only 11.5% said it wasn't that good. And I'll tell you what, Rob, I was expecting that last number to be higher just because of all the drama and the mess and the confusion that's been going on with this project up until now. I thought more people would say, like, I'm already checked out of this movie, so it didn't do anything for me. But it seems like the response to it is at least basically pretty good. And that's always a good thing. Question is, guys, I want to know what you guys think about it overall. Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime, 24/7, over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured right here as a main topic on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets sent in to us by Deb McKenzie, who writes, that's my mom's maiden name. Anyway, greetings, John and crew. So, I just saw that Frozen 2 has passed the original Frozen, and that they're now calling it the #1 animated film of all time with just over $1.3 billion. That's crazy. That's so big. That's fantastic. But I have a simple question. How is it #1 with $1.3 billion when Lion King, the new one, the 2019 rendition, has $1.6 billion? I know it looks live action, but it is in fact an animated movie. Did they just forget that? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, I saw that headline myself. Frozen 2 passes Frozen to become the #1 animated film of all time. I'm like, really? Huh. Isn't that interesting? Because if I'm not mistaken, the last time I looked, Lion King, which is in fact a 100% animated film, is sitting at $1.65 billion. 300 million more than Frozen 2. As a matter of fact, Rob, just that little ceremony that happened last night where Tom Hanks was given that great award, the Golden Globes, this movie, Lion King, was just nominated at the Golden Globes for Best Animated Film. It's not going to get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film. I think it should, but it won't. And it's just a little bit higher. Now, in a Variety article that was written about this, they mentioned, Rob, that Disney does not consider Lion King an animated film. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, now again, this is according to Variety, is saying that they do not consider Lion King an animated film. To which my response would simply be something along the lines of, it don't matter what Disney says they consider that movie as. I'm sorry. All due respect to everybody at Disney. I don't give a flying F what you consider the movie to be. Lion King, the 2019 version, is in fact, by every definition under the sun, it is an animated film. I get that it looks photorealistic. I get that it looks like it's live action. That's fine. Well, I'm not going to say what I was about to say, but looks can be deceiving. The fact of the matter is that Lion King is indeed an absolute animated film. So this whole claim right now of Frozen being the #1 box office animated film of all time, I get it. It's still in theaters and you're trying to give it some pump and some buzz to keep that box office money rolling in. So I get it, but I'm sorry. And I like Frozen 2 very much, as a matter of fact. But Frozen 2 is not the #1 box office animated film of all time. The Lion King is still that, and it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. Disney, or let's say Warner Brothers, can make a Batman movie. They're making a Batman movie. And they can say, you know, all that they want, that we consider this, over here, Warner Brothers, we consider the new Batman movie to be a documentary. We consider it to be a documentary, so we want to submit it in documentary. It doesn't matter what you say you consider it to be. It is, in fact, a narrative film. It is not a documentary. It is a narrative film. Lion King, I don't care. They say, we consider it live action. Yeah, but it's not live action. It's animated. So shut up. So no, Frozen 2 is not, as a matter of fact, the number one animated box office film of all time. Maybe it deserves to be, but it's not. Facts matter. I don't know, Rob, you see this. What do you think about it at all?
Well, if Disney looks at the original Lion King and they look at that, that's an animated movie. I think what the Lion King of this year 2019 is, it is in fact, yes, it was animated, but it's sort of a hybridization. I don't know what. I understand because they're thinking about the Lion King going along with Aladdin, going along with Cinderella, going along with Beauty and the Beast, with all of their quote unquote live action remakes. And I mean, I get where they're coming from, but I agree with you. I think it's a very strange. We live in a strange time, John, where the idea, the lines of animation and what's real and what's not are blurred, certainly. And I know what they're saying, but I mean, Lion King's animated. You can call it what you want. You can say what you want. I think they use computers with both. Maybe somebody's using, because no one used a paintbrush at some point with character designs. I don't know, but
I bet you they did.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know where that distinction is because it looks live action. I mean, it's going to be very strange how we move forward with James Dean being digitally resurrected for the movies. Is he an actor? Or is James Dean, like, if he makes a movie 47 years after his death, does that mean he's really acting? Or are we going to call this a computer animated simulation? Could the resurrected digital James Dean be up for a Best Actor award at the Academy Awards? I mean, what world are we living in, John? I don't understand.
So there's a lot of different ways you could look at this question, but to me, the bottom line is this: Disney can say whatever they want. Frozen 2 is not the number one animated box office film of all time. As a matter of fact, another one of their movies actually happens to be, and that is Lion King. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. It still is what it is. That's just my thoughts. The question is, guys, what do you think? Do you think, nah, John, it looks real, so it shouldn't be considered animated? Maybe? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know how you guys would approach that and what your thoughts on that are. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Ryan Cleary, who writes, "Hey, John, Happy New Year, my friend." Thank you very much, Ryan, and Happy New Year to you as well. I just read that it's been confirmed that Rian Johnson is working on Knives Out, the sequel, which will focus on Daniel Craig's character. Thoughts? Wishing you and Ann and the team every happiness and success in the new year. All right, thank you very much for that, man, and sending that out. And yes, as a matter of fact, everybody knows one of my top 5 favorite films of the year is Knives Out. I adored this movie way more than I thought that I would. And it's getting some Oscar buzz. We're going to see it probably capture a couple of nominations as the Academy Award nominations come out next week. Maybe it'll get shut out, maybe it won't, but it's getting some buzz for it right now. And I thought the movie was fabulous. Made over $250 million and counting right now on a $40 million budget. So it's doing very, very well for itself. So it shouldn't surprise any of us, Rob, that they are saying right now that, Rian Johnson came out and he confirmed yesterday that he has already begun work on it. Now, Lionsgate, it should be pointed out, has not at this point, just so we're all informed here, Lionsgate has at this point not officially greenlight said sequel. However, with Rian Johnson already working on it, Daniel Craig already jumping up and down, waving his hand in the air that he wants to play this character again, and when you put on top of all that, the fact that this movie has made such a lot of money for Lionsgate in a year when some films are struggling to make money in the wake of the Disney motorboat going by, it seems like an absolute no-brainer. I mean, this is going to happen. They're going to make this. And my thoughts on that are simply, of course you make a sequel of this. This is, Detective Benoit Blanc, this is exactly the type of franchise I think Lionsgate and I think film fans need right now. We need a film franchise that isn't superhero related. We need a franchise right now that isn't, dumb action. And you guys know I love my dumb action stuff. I do, but we need something else out there. And I love Daniel Craig's character in this movie. I love the story of it. I'm a sucker for a good whodunit mystery movie. So, Rob, I'm all for this. And to me, it's just, no duh. And I think it's just a matter of a week or two before Lionsgate comes out. They're going to wait to see if they get any Academy Award nominations. And then probably on the heels of a nomination, when the news comes out that they got some significant nomination, I think then Lionsgate will make it official and say, we are, green lighting Knives Out 2 and will be in production probably within the next 10 months. I'm betting that a Knives Out 2 goes into production this calendar year. So I don't know. That's just my thought on that. Rob, you're taking a look at this. What do you think about the idea of doing a sequel to this for Knives Out?
I think it's, terrific. I mean, clearly you could tell when Daniel Craig was doing Logan Lucky with Soderbergh and he was developing sort of that Southern fried accent of his, that he was clearly having a ball.
He was so good in that movie.
It was so good in the movie. And after the stunts and the globe trotting, I think he really loved being in a room with a bunch of other great actors just acting, having a great time playing a character that was fully realized, and there was no explosions and there was a little bit of mayhem, but basically it was almost like a drawing room piece. And I really think that he can't wait to jump back into something like this. I think it's a character that's indelibly his. People are going to look back in 50 years at Daniel Craig's turn. They're probably going to make 5 or 6 of these movies, because why not? And as a franchise, here's a movie franchise that doesn't break the bank. It doesn't cost 60 or 100 million jillion dollars to make. And it's sustainable. It's a Lionsgate franchise. I mean, they've looked for something after Twilight. They've been searching for a long time. Very
hard, yeah.
And this is something that is a worldwide earner that everybody likes, that you have major stars. And can you imagine? Everybody's going to want to be in these movies moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be known for his great ensemble casts that he's going to pull together. And I think it's terrific. I think it's a great thing, and we're getting a brand new, original, made-for-the-movies franchise, and I can't wait to see the next one.
By the way, some people in the live chat are throwing in some stuff. Somebody says, why not get the best of both worlds? Call it Knives Out Tokyo Drift. So that's what I did. Somebody says, John, I guess in reference to me saying we need a decent other franchise. How dare you disrespect the Bad Moms franchise? So so kudos to you guys in the live chat who thrown in that stuff. So listen, question is for you guys. What do you think about the notion of moving forward with Knives Out? Maybe you haven't even had a chance to see the first Knives Out yet. Guys, trust me, see it. It's a wonderful film. Do you think they should have greenlit it already? Maybe do you think they should take a couple years before doing another one instead of jumping right back into it like I think they should? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Talk C, who writes, did you hear all the rumbling about the rights to Hulk and Namor is coming back to Marvel? I've seen many sites talking about it, but like you said, always check the source, and it doesn't look like a very reliable one. Your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, amidst all the juggernaut that has been Marvel and the MCU.
I see what you did there. Juggernaut.
Yes. I'm glad somebody caught that. Two of the bigger questions that has really been hanging over the whole thing for a while has been, number one, Hulk, and most predominantly Hulk. Because a lot of people wonder, wait a minute, you're putting Hulk in all these movies. Why don't you do a Hulk movie? Well, because basically, for those of you who don't know, Universal has the distribution rights to Hulk. There are two sets of rights, all right? There's the production rights, there's distribution rights. Marvel has the rights to make movies with the Hulk in them. Hell, they even have the right to make a standalone Hulk movie. The catch is, if you make a Hulk movie, Disney doesn't get to be the distributor of it. Universal gets first dibs at being distributor of it. And so there's been this back and forth thing going around all the time. So there's been Hulk, and there's also been the question of Namor, which has also been wrapped up in a whole bunch of rights questions and things like that. So, some people have been seeing flying around the internet a bunch of reports saying that Marvel has now gotten back the rights to Hulk and Namor. Pump the brakes on that. All right? Pump the brakes on that. I'm not saying they haven't. Be clear. However, the notion that they have gotten them back, pump the brakes on that a little bit, because even though you're seeing a bunch of sites claiming that this is the case, and you're seeing a bunch of sites saying that, talking about the reports that Marvel has gotten Hulk and Namor back, the reality is all those sites are getting their information from one place. And that one place is a website called MCU Cosmic. Now, MCU Cosmic is not like a typical random kid in his spare bedroom writing some blog without any real information. MCU Cosmic is run by a guy who used to run like the DVD stuff for IGN, right? But keep in mind, this whole thing that he even writes himself in this, he wants to highlight, listen, guys, this is just a rumor. And he's heard from one place, he's heard from one source that this has happened. So, one guy heard from another unnamed guy that this is what happened, and even the one guy can't really say that this is true. Now, one of the things I completely believe, the author's name over here is Jeremy Conrad. I completely believe that Jeremy Conrad was told this. That I have no doubt. But just as I was told that Boba Fett would show up in the season finale of Mandalorian, I was told that, but it didn't end up being true, which makes me go, phew, I'm glad I never reported that. I think Jeremy was indeed told this for sure, but even he is emphasizing in his own article here, guys, I am putting this out there simply as a rumor. So other sites jumped onto it and started spinning it as a big story when really it all comes from right here on Jeremy's site. So the question becomes, is this legit? Is this real? Is this true? Has Marvel, in fact, gotten back the rights to Hulk so they'd be free to make Hulk live action films without needing to give the distribution rights to Universal to do it? Have they gotten the rights to Namor? And are they actually going to incorporate Namor into Black Panther, which a lot of people have been speculating for a long time? I think this. I think when a report like this comes out from a source like this, I think you take it, you file it away in your head. I say, okay, let's keep that in mind. Let's keep this report in mind, and then let's see what happens later, see if it comes out. But for now, let's not assume that this is true. Because even Jeremy wrote himself that this is something right now that needs to kind of be considered as a rumor at this point, more than anything, because even he only heard it from one guy that he can't name. So at this point, I think it's just an interesting thing that's out there. Let's file it away in the back of our heads to see if any other information comes in about this. For me, Rob, my starting assumption right now is that no, Marvel hasn't gotten Hulk and Namor back. I think one of the major trades might have broke that by now if this were true.
I agree.
But I'm also not discounting that there's a possibility it could be real. We know Marvel has wanted these things back for a long time, right? They want these things back. So I think you got to file this under the category of this could turn out to be something. For now, let's not assume it, but it could turn out to be something later. But for now, I'm still operating on the assumption that they haven't yet. But my mind could change on that depending if new information comes to light. Rob, you're seeing all this coming about. Number one, where's your level of belief right now as far as if this is true? But number two, do you think it is to Marvel's advantage even to go out and get these characters when they already have so many characters and they're making so many movies? What's your thoughts on that right now?
Well, first of all, I think it absolutely is to Marvel's advantage to bring all of their characters under one roof, especially one of the characters that they've been making movies with. And another character people are waiting to see. I mean, who doesn't want Namor in the MCU? And I think, look, Universal has put out 2 Hulk films, and it is the kind of deal. It wouldn't be something that was done in a vacuum. I think this would be big news because, I mean, Universal has spent a lot of money on those Hulk movies. Ong Lee made one of them. So it's not something that would stay quiet. And the fact that they've talked about, there's been whispers that Namor is going to be the villain in Black Panther 2. In the comics, he obviously flooded Wakanda. There's a great precedent for him to be in Black Panther 2. He also is a mutant, so he's part of the Illuminati. So he means a lot to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think it's a victory, as you would assume, that whenever there's a victory, John, everybody wants to put that in the trades. And I think this would be a great victory. And when one studio sells another studio their assets, it's a big deal. It's big news. And I think that we would hear about it, and it would be something that certainly they would want to report because it's exciting for the fan base.
It is exciting for the fan base. I think a lot of people would be very interested in seeing it come back, and I know I would be interested. Look, I'm not going to lie. My interest in a standalone Hulk film has declined a little bit after what they did with Hulk in Infinity War and Endgame. I love Infinity War and Endgame. I really do, but not every movie's perfect. And if I had to pick out a couple things that bother me, I wasn't big on the whole Professor Hulk thing, but I thought it was a brave thing to try. I want to see Hulk. Damn it. I want to see Hulk. So if you're going to give me Hulk,
right,
then count me as a little bit more interested. The question is for you guys, though. What do you think about all this? Number one, do you buy into the rumor right now? Do you think, I think this is absolutely true? Do you think it's interesting? Do you think Marvel shouldn't pay any attention to this? Do you think Marvel should absolutely pursue this? Are you interested in standalone Hulk films, or are you perfectly happy with seeing Hulk playing the role in the MCU that he has been? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's now move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted into us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. MakingStarWars.net is reporting that the next Star Wars movie in 2022 takes place 400 years before the prequels. Given they plan to announce the director of the film this month, that, by the way, has not been confirmed, but that is what's kind of being whispered around right now. They must have an idea for what the movie is about. Do you think this is a good direction for the film? And is a young Yoda cameo inevitable?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Geeky Gator. And yes, for those of you who've not seen the reports going around, MakingStarWars.net, again, they're not the Hollywood Reporter, but they are one of the more reliable places out there. Don't get everything right, but they're usually a pretty decent source for this sort of information, is saying that they have found out that the next Star Wars movie is actually happening, Rob, in an era they're calling the High Republic, which I'll be honest with you. Now, because there's a number of the EU things that I never read. So I'll be honest with you, the High Republic era is something I'm mostly unfamiliar with. And you don't hear me saying that a lot about anything Star Wars a lot of time, but I'm not really familiar with it, but fine. They're saying that it takes place about 400 years prior to the events of the Star Wars universe that we know. That Yoda at this point is not the Jedi Master, but he's a Jedi Knight at that point. And by the way, there's nothing, a lot of people saying is, did you hear that the new movies will be 400 years before and they'll feature a younger Yoda? And actually, as I go through this report from MakingStarWars.net, there's nothing in there that says that Yoda would be in it. He very well could be. I'm just saying from the report that I'm reading, there's nothing in there that says that. It just says this happens during the time period that Yoda is a Jedi Knight. Doesn't say he'd be in the movie. Doesn't say he wouldn't be. Let's just be clear of that. And it happens after the establishment of the Sith Rule of Two. That's after the establishment of the Sith Rule of Two. Do I think that this could be a good idea? Absolutely. Absolutely I could. Because here's the thing. I have said for a long, long time that my primary frustration with the current Star Wars, and even going back to the beginning of the prequels, one of my biggest frustrations here has been the fact that they have consistently and continuously shrunk the Star Wars universe. They have continually shrunk the Star Wars universe. You know, and the analogy that I give for this, Rob, is I say, you can get a little bit of a sense of how big the town you live in is if how long do you have to walk outside before bumping into somebody you know? If I can go walking outside and walk around for hours before I bump into anybody that I see or recognize or know, that's probably the sign that I live in a fairly large town, fairly big town. If you can't take 10 steps out your door without bumping into somebody you know, that's probably an indicator you live in a pretty small town. And I feel like for the past 20 years, Every time we've stepped out into the Star Wars neighborhood, we are tripping over everybody we already know. And every time we trip over everybody we already know, I feel like the Star Wars universe has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. It's one of the reasons why I liked Mandalorian so much. Because Mandalorian, while set in a familiar setting, it's new characters, new stories, new villains. Yes, this is what I was wanting. So the notion to me of a Star Wars story and a new set of films set 400 years prior to the events of the traditional Star Wars that we know, I think is wonderful. Because granted, a 400 to 500-year-old Yoda will be running around out there somewhere, granted. For the most part, you're now in an era where Star Wars forces itself to tell new stories with new adventures and new characters and new settings and new villains. And that's, when you break down to the seed of it, the genius thing that George Lucas created. Yes, Luke Skywalker was genius. Yes, Darth Vader was genius. Yes, the Death Star was genius. But really, the foundational kernel of the true seed of genius of what George Lucas created with Star Wars, it was the universe. It was this incredible universe that he created. And I just believe now, over 4 decades later, it's time to start exploring. Put on your Calvin and Hobbes hat and start exploring this universe a little bit. Start telling some of these other epic stories. And 40 years in the past, probably not enough distance there. 400 years in the past, yes. Was I thinking they'd go Old Republic and go like 1,000 years in the past? That's what I thought they would do. But you know what? 400 still works for me, Rob. 400 works for me. So if this is true, and it's coming from a fairly reliable source, but let's just still file this under maybe. If this is true, I think it's fantastic. I really do. And then we just buckle in and wait to hear some official confirmations and wait to see who they're going to announce to direct this thing. But for now, on its surface, Rob, I'm buying into this and I like what it sounds like. Rob, you're hearing all this. What's your reaction?
Dude, I'm totally in. It sounds amazing. I mean, think about our world today and think about our history. You could go back 2,000 years and meet Maximus Decimus Meridius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife who will have his vengeance in this life or the next. Or you could go back and watch a movie about William Wallace. Watch Braveheart. That was 400 years ago or something. And think about the great stories, the great characters, the movies we had. Excalibur, set in the Star Wars universe. And as for Yoda, you know what? For 800 years has Yoda trained Jedi. He knows all about the deepest commitment, the most serious-minded Jedi. I mean, he knows what's up. So the idea that you could have, I think it's always good in a franchise like Star Wars if you have some kind of a touchstone. But what we know of Yoda is if you're training Jedi, that means there's a lot of Jedi over 800 years that Yoda has known and in his life. And I would have no problem seeing a younger Yoda the same way we saw younger Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it wouldn't take away from it for me if he was a minor character or we saw him train somebody. But think about just in our world, how many historical epics about our own history that we've received. And wouldn't it be great, the High Republic era, it's like at the beginning of Conan the Barbarian, it was the time of high adventure, and you meet the Conan of the Star Wars universe going after Thulsa Doom. I'd not to be like that on the nose with James Earl Jones, but
it's a James Earl Jones shared cinematic universe.
Yeah, but I think it's a great idea. And like you said, one of the things I think that even as a kid, when you're 10 years old and Luke's like, you fought in the Clone Wars? You're 10 years old going, what were the Clone Wars? And I want to see that. I thought they were more interesting when I just heard the name back when I was 10 than what we finally saw. But I mean, having a great historical epic set in the Star Wars universe, that just makes me all just warm inside, and I can't wait.
Yeah, and again, look, if it's true, we got to file that under there. But if they are going to hit this 2022 date, they do have to announce pretty quick. And they do have to have their pieces of the puzzle on the board. And look, we can assume at this point that, even before the famed departure of Benioff and Weiss off the project, they must have been laying a lot of the foundation for a long time. Because I had somebody write to me the other day and say, John, if they did move ahead with a 2022 date for a Star Wars movie, isn't that rushing it a little bit? Isn't that rushing it a little bit? Well, I mean, keep this in mind. A December of 2022 date is still basically 3 years away, right? It's still basically 3 years away because we got to get to the end of 2020 and then to the end of 2021. And then we got to get to the end of 2022. It's basically 3 years away. But also keep in mind the foundations and the underlying of this story was probably been in the works for 6 months to a year.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're just going to decide, oh, yeah, why don't we hire a team and go make a new Star? This movie's already deep, deep, deep into development, if not pre-production.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's good, but it means if they did hold this 2022 date, it means I don't think it'll be rushed. So it's going to be what it's going to be. Let's see how this turns out, and let's see if what kind of an actor they do if those rumors about them announcing an actor soon are true. Question here is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you like the idea of going 400 years into the past because it separates everything from the current stories, or would you have rather them seeing them just keep progressing forward, like a few years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker? Maybe that's what you would have wanted to see. Jump down into the comments section below, guys, and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's go into our fifth and final movie commentary fart joke topic for today.
Uh-oh.
And we're going to go into that. I shouldn't have even said that. And we're going to do this with Mike. And Mike says, hello, John. So, Josh Boone, going back to New Mutants here, has rated his newest movie, The New Mutants PG-13. So it seems more than likely that the movie will, in fact, actually open on its release date. What are your thoughts? And of course, this question got sent in before we had the dropping of the new trailer and the new trailer hitting here online. And yes, Josh Boone got online. He confirmed to everybody that, yes, the movie's going to be PG-13. And he also followed up on that and said, it was never going to be rated R. Now, there are going to be some people, and I understand, because you hear horror and your mind automatically goes to, oh, wouldn't it be cool to be rated R? I would suggest, especially after watching this trailer, I don't see anything in there that would require an R rating. Now, we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of years, but the goalposts have moved a little bit. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of stuff that you can get away with in PG-13. I mean, hell, just look at Avengers Endgame. In Avengers Endgame, we had a situation where, an individual is being held down, completely helpless in Thanos, if you can ever say Thanos is helpless, being pinned down, held helpless, while somebody came up and summarily executed him. Summarily? Did I just say summarily? Gee, I got to get more sleep. Just came up and, just arbitrarily executed him. Decapitated him and cut his head off. It was PG-13. Optimus Prime in a lot of in the Transformers movies. Optimus Prime can come out, start wielding his sword, and he's like decapitating Decepticons. He's running them through with their oil spurting out all over the place, blah, 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 but it's robots. So you can get away with it. It's PG-13. I've never thought for a moment, look, the stuff that's really going to get you a lot of your R rating today, Rob, is going to be sexually explicit stuff, nudity, and excessive language. Because you can get away with a lot of language today. You can get away with a lot of language. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do that is not R-rated, or that is not any of that stuff, that does still give you that tension, that does still give you that intensity, that doesn't require it to be rated R. And so as I look at these trailers, I don't see any suggestion in there that we're going to need some gratuitous sex scene or some gratuitous nudity, although I love the filthy, bring on the filthy by all means. But I mean, I don't see it needed for this. I don't see an excessive amount of language being needed for it to give it what it feels like. It just, like, the trailer made it feel the way, to me, it should feel. And as such, I'm perfectly good with a PG-13 on this, because again, you can get away with a lot in PG-13, and if they follow the DNA that we saw in the trailer, I'm perfectly happy. Rob, you heard about the announcement of that Boone saying this movie will be PG-13. Do you think that's to the project's detriment, or do you think it not matters at all? Do you think it's somewhere in the middle? How do you see it?
Well, I hark back to 2002's remake of The Ring, Naomi Watts. That movie was terrifying, and it was PG-13. And, I think, like you said, how far, this movie could be scary, but without overt, say, bloodletting and bad language and bring on the filthy, and with teenagers, I can't even say I would want to see the filthy, because that would make me feel like the dirty old man that I am. But I think that it's really important to recognize that just because a movie is PG-13, I mean, Mola Ram pulled out some dude's heart in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes, he did,
and that was
and
one
held
of the
it
first,
up as it beat.
It was beating. I mean, I think intensity and making something frightening doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be rated R. And I think that judging from this trailer, and also the fact that this movie, the whole Demon Bear storyline, had a really, really interesting undercurrent of psychology to it. And I think the overall storyline is such that it's actually worthwhile. It's a worthwhile story to be telling within the context of the New Mutants and the X-Men universe. And I think that the story actually has a lot of value. And I think that alone probably makes it, it's going to be a great movie, I think. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I have high hopes for this film, and it actually means something. It's not just some horror movie. It has horror elements, but it is about something. It's about familial bonds and friendship and responsibility, and it's the kind of movie that I think when people see it, I'm not saying it's going to be as good as Logan, but the reason Logan resonates is because it moves, although it was R-rated, it moves far beyond what your typical comic book movie is supposed to be. And I think New Mutants is going to do the same thing. And that's why even though it has a PG-13 rating, I think it's going to be very, very worthwhile.
Let me throw something out here and let me give me your first reaction. New Mutants is John Campea makes a statement. How do you react to it? New Mutants is an absolutely one and done film.
Unfortunately, unless it becomes a runaway hit, I think you're probably right about that, because this was the last look. They released Dark Phoenix. This was the last vestige of that universe. Now, depending on what they do with Deadpool, what's interesting is these characters and these actors it's a pretty great cast.
Yeah, it is.
And I could see...
Who are all now 30 years older than when they shot the film, but yes, it's a great cast.
But what's really interesting is if they wanted to, you could begin a new... I mean, again, I don't know, but you could, depending on the ties it has to the rest of the X universe, maybe this is a way they could begin their X-Men universe somehow. Who knows if it's a success?
All right, question for you guys is, what do you think about the fact that Joss Boone, the director of New Mutants, has come out and said, yes, it will be PG-13? I think that's perfectly fine. Maybe you've got some apprehension about that. And what do you think about my statement saying I think this is going to be a one and done film? That doesn't mean I don't think it's not going to be successful. I'm just saying look, they're moving on. They're not going to incorporate these characters in the MCU and blah, blah. I don't think so. I think it's one and done. What do you guys think about that? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that stuff down and out of the way, we're now going to move on to our live questions. And you guys can participate in the live questions by doing one of two things. Number one, if you look in the top line of the description in the video below, you're going to see a tip link. You can use that to send in a question, or you can use the super chat feature, send in a question, and get your question answered live on this show. But before we get to all that kind of stuff, if you guys will indulge us, Rob and I are going to take just a couple of minute break here. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere. We're just going to run, refill the drinks, rest the vocal cords for a second, stretch the old legs. They're getting tight. And then we will be right back in just a couple of minutes. Go use the bathroom. Go get yourself a drink, and then come right back and join us. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patiences and indulgences. We took a little bit of a break there, but now let's jump on over and start taking your guys' live questions. And we're going to get things started off here with Superman Steve, who writes, John, I cannot wait until that day that John Krasinski wins an Oscar. I so believe he should have won for A Quiet Place, as that is one of the greatest films I've ever seen. I'll tell you what, Steve, I don't know about winning, but Rob, I really thought he should have been nominated for Best Director. Maybe not win, but what he did with that movie, where so much of it didn't even have dialogue, that movie is all direction. It's all direction. And I was really surprised he didn't get a nomination for Best Director for that.
Well, yeah, but it was his first time out of the gate, and it's a genre movie, and I thought he did a fantastic job, but I can see why he didn't get a nomination. I
don't know. I mean, like some actors like Jennifer Hudson came out, got an Academy Award for Dreamgirls. I keep forgetting her. Sibide, the girl who played in Precious.
Oh yeah,
first movie came out, won the Academy Award. I don't know. I thought he should have got one.
It's different with direction, though. I mean, sometimes somebody like Kevin Costner, didn't he win a directing award for Dances with Wolves?
Yes.
Or Mel Gibson might have won for Braveheart or something. Sometimes you knock it out of the park. But I think it was a combination of a first-time director, which is working on albeit a great genre movie, but just it's not seen as highbrow as some other movies might.
Yeah, maybe.
Even though it was really well executed. Because, I thought Gareth Evans should have won an award for directing The Raid, or as I like to say, The Rad. But who am I?
And The Rad 2.
And The Rad 2, even radder, John.
Superman Steve also follows up and writes, I have personally and unfortunately experienced the scene with the nail in the foot. Oh, yeah, talking about A Quiet Place too. So every time I watch it, I feel the pain rushing through my gut. Sorry for the visual. I just wanted to share that story. Keep up the incredible work. Thank you so much, Superman Steve. And dude, listen, I was telling the story the other day, Rob. Somebody asked me one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie, or the scene in a horror movie that gets me the most reaction. And it is something as stupid as in A Quiet Place. Again, all direction. Emily Blunt walking down those stairs and she steps on a nail. In a movie with alien monsters ripping people's bodies apart so their entrails come flying outside of them, the thing that freaks me out the most and gets the most physical reaction out of me is still to this day, Superman Steve, that thing when she's walking down, because when she steps on that nail, my whole body starts to convulse. It's absolutely crazy. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, the way you addressed the Collider situation was masterful. I got emotional and I loved it. The following day, I saw you address Jack's comments and got emotional for a different reason. My heart broke mostly because everything you said was so true. He then follows up and writes, I'm not going to address Jack's comments. He's not worth it. I'll just say that he should shave his head, go to sleep, and win a goldfish while doing the shit rat face and yelling, Igla? I'm not sure what that is. You got at least two of those references, right? Well, I got most of them. I didn't get the last one. Yeah, look, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that want to hear me comment on the whole situation with the video I made yesterday. Let me say this. I am not going to harp on it. I said what I had to say. I said what I had to say about the situation. I said exactly how I felt about it. I thought I made a good argument as to why I felt the way that I felt about it. And by the way, let me say this too. Let me throw this in here. Some people are giving me credit for something that I didn't actually do. A bunch of people are writing into me and writing comments on that video and saying things like, it's really admirable that John would rush to the defense of these people. Let me be clear about something, though. Hey, I'm like anybody. I love any praise somebody wants to give me, sure, but that's not something I should be praised for, because really my intention was not to defend anybody. I didn't make that video to defend people. All the people who were over at Collider are big boys and girls. They don't need me, some of which I haven't even spoken to in years. They don't need me to come out and defend them. They're big enough boys and girls. They can defend themselves and they can handle whatever's thrown at them. To me, it was an issue of principle. That this guy was literally squatting down and shitting over the work that I and a lot of very good people had put in to that place over the years. And I simply was not going to have that. I was simply not going to have that. And that was the thing. It was really an issue of principle. So while I appreciate people trying to praise me for doing one thing, I should be clear and say I don't deserve that because it's really not what I was doing. They don't need me to defend them. It was just a matter of the principle of the situation that I thought needed to be addressed, and I addressed it. And I don't intend... some people will say, whoa, my gosh, look at all the views that video got. You should make angry rant video every day. No, that's not what I do. I mean, sometimes I rant. You guys know this, but I'm not going to go, ooh, that video worked. I should make 10 more of those. No, I've said what I've had to say. I'm not going to continue to attack or go after or criticize or respond to this Jack kid because I've already said it. So to me, the issue's now done. If somebody wants to try to continue the discussion, which I would advise against, then I'll re-engage. But for now, to me, the issue is done. And if you subscribe to my channel just because you want to hear me go off on some people again every day, I love having you as a subscriber, but you might as well unsubscribe because that's not what I'm going to do. That's not what I want to be about. And it took 2.5 years for me to unload like that because of what was said. But it is what it is. And I do support I do appreciate all the support, guys. I really, really do. And I know there are other people who appreciated your support as well. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay. With that down, thanks for sending that in, 50 Shades. Let's keep going on here. 50 Shades also writes, just to clarify regarding Hellboy 2019, it's a terrible movie. Worst one I saw last year, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Haha, pun. I was sitting in the theater saying, this is so bad, but I actually love it. That's what I meant the other day. Oh, and I get that. I mean, I've been in those situations where I've seen movies that I've just... I'm just like, oh my God, this is awful. Vanilla Ice is Cool as Ice is a great example of that. It's one of the worst films ever made in history, but I cannot help but love it every time I see it. 50 Shades also writes, none of the jokes I've seen on open mic were from JoJo. A Nice Egg in Trying Times was from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a show I don't watch. So I don't dislike it. I'm just saying I don't watch it. And the other one was something from my mom saw on Facebook. Are you cold? Sit in a corner. It's 90 degrees. Dude, why would you quote some random thing your mom saw on Facebook? Don't quote something, 50, if there's no possibility that someone's going to know what the quote is from. And then 50 also writes, thanks for your understanding the other day. You're so right. Probably emailing you would be the right approach since I've sent in a $50 tip. Maybe you should do a video about why you don't review other people's scripts and videos after you buy a new chair. Yeah, I probably should, because what he's talking about, Rob, is that, the other day, again, and I'm sure you probably get this too, Rob, I get a lot of people that I don't know why. I mean, this is going all the way back to the AMC days. Like, people would write scripts and writing me, John, how can I send you my script? I want you to read my script. And it's like, well, I'm flattered, but who do you think I am? Do you think like, the guys at Warner Brothers and Sony and Paramount and Disney are calling me, John, you got any good scripts for us? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got this great one. So like, I don't have those connections. I have some connections, but I don't have that power that I can do that. And I often have people writing to me and say, can you watch this? Can you do that? And blah, blah, blah. And the reality is I get like a couple of those every single day, and I just don't have the time to do that, unfortunately. But I'm sure you probably have had people asking you if they could send you their movie or send you their script or something along those lines.
Every day. I get somebody sending me stuff every single day. And what's hard to make people understand is, when it comes to things like screenplays, some people, by the way, have offered to pay me. And that's always nice to read their stuff. It's mostly a matter of time. But, I read screenplays for a living for years. I literally read thousands of screenplays and was paid to do so. And it's hard because, unfortunately, knowing what I know, 99 out of 100 scripts are not good. And it's hard when you put yourself into a position because people want to be praised for their work. And I understand that, but it's hard to do that sometimes. And I hate letting people down. There's a great essay people should read written by Josh Olson, who wrote The History of Violence, called I Will Not Read Your Effing Script. And it's in the Village Voice. And I always refer people to that. And I don't mean to be mean about it, because I like looking at people's work and encouraging people, but that does a pretty good job of explaining why it's tough for people like us to read other people's scripts.
And there's an even bigger issue at hand. And this is true not just of like little nobodies like me or Rob, who's actually made feature films, or other, but there's another issue at play. There's one of the big reasons why studios now do not accept unsolicited scripts. Like, I've had people write and say, hey, John, I got a great Batman script. How do I send it to Warner Brothers? And then I have to break their heart saying, Warner Brothers won't accept your script. And one of the reasons why the studios cannot accept unsolicited scripts. Unsolicited means they didn't ask you for it. You can't just send it to them. The reason they won't accept them, big reason, is this. Let's say I let people send me their scripts, right? Even though I'm a freaking nobody. They send me their scripts. And let's say I never even read it. I never even open it. Now let's forward 7 years. Let's say 7 years from now, I decide to do a movie. I decide to write and direct a movie 7 years from now. And in the movie, there's a store owner character who is kind of like a store owner character that somebody sent me in their script 7 years ago. Guess what? Now they're going to sue me saying I copied their idea, even if I never read their script. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, John, that wouldn't happen. Oh, it happens every fucking day. It happens all the time. And that's why studios just go, no, we can't even accept your scripts. Because even if we accepted them and just put them in a closet and never looked at it for 100 years, there's going to be some similarities to things we do later, maybe that are similar to what's in your script. And then you're going to come back 10 years later and sue us. So that's another big legal reason why nobody should accept looking at unsolicited scripts. The best, if you want to be a screenwriter, best thing to do is get yourself a literary agent, which is not easy. I made that sound like it's easy, Rob, but it's not easy. It's very difficult to get a literary, but that's one. So anyway, just a whole interesting little inside baseball kind of picture there. All right, let's move on here. John DeNicola writes, who sends in a $50 tip. By the way, thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, John. When you send in support that much or higher, we will answer your question. By the way, we got like 10 $50 questions that we're going to put up on the channel today. When you send in something that large, we actually address your question in your own standalone video. But let me just touch on it here quickly since you sent it in. John, this isn't a question. Well, there goes all that spiel I just made then. I probably should have read DeNicola's first line. I probably should have read the first line in his message before saying all that. Anyway, this isn't a question. I have followed you for nearly 7 years, and though you have always embodied class, integrity, professionalism, and hard work, your response to Hind yesterday was a shining example of why you were a role model to me. Thank you. And honestly, John and Nick, thank you so much. I do appreciate that very, very much. It is not how I want myself to operate on a normal basis. I don't like to have meltdowns and do my old Little John boo-hoo routine every day. It's just something that I felt that needed to be said, that I needed to say. And I really do. It was overwhelming to me seeing the amount of support that came in from you guys over that. So I deeply appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. And thank you for supporting the channel on that level, John. I really appreciate it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you for that as well. All right. 50 Shades follows up and writes, word of advice, John, when signing checks, always put 2020 in the date, not simply 20. Now, the reason is that somebody can add 19 to the 20 and claim it's a check from 2019 and therefore expired. This already happened to somebody I know. Oh, listen, I just had to write my first couple of checks of the year. By the way, why do we still have to write checks?
Yeah, John, what is a check? What are you talking about?
Yeah, what is a check? Honestly, listen. So me and Ann rent the place we live in. We rent the place we live in, right? And for whatever reason, our landlord doesn't know what Venmo is, doesn't know what Zelle is. They want their rent checks in physical checks. So every month, first world problems. Every month, I've got to actually bust out the checkbook and write out, and I do put in I've always put in the full year on checks. And then I got to get in my car, drive to Glendale every month and drop off these physical checks. It's archaic, Rob. It's archaic. Why do we have to do these things?
I don't know.
But it's a good word of advice. Always put the full actual date, the full year in your checks. Always do that. Absolutely. All right. 50 Shades also writes, Pokemon reference, anonymous Reddit user used JJ's cut user but it failed. John Campea used research facts, and it's super effective. I'm not quite sure what that's a reference to. Pokemon reference, anonymous writer uses John used facts. I think that's a compliment, but I'm not quite sure what's a reference to 50 Shades, but thank you for writing that in, man. Tony Rodriguez writes, hey, John, so since all those people have left Collider, and let's not talk about another channel's difficulties, all of the things there, I hope you and Christian are going to figure out who is going to get Schnepp's pick out before they scrap the studio. I notice it's not in the SEN studio. I don't know this for a fact, but me and Christian were texting back and forth yesterday. I wouldn't doubt it that Christian probably has that picture. I think that was his. I think that was his. At least I hope it was his. And I'm sure he's, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's already got it in his new SEN studio. I think he might already have it there. So that's definitely a good thing. All right. Dropkick Aggie writes, I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. Many people did. Dropkick Aggie, many people did. But my least favorite of the Disney era. The plot is terrible, but the execution of that plot, acting, dialogue, etc., overcame the bad moments for me, satisfying and emotional story arcs for Rey and Kylo, even if not what I wanted. And that's a good approach. It's too many people, I think, Dropkick Aggie approach not just Star Wars movies, but any movie with, do what I want you to do in this movie, or else I won't be happy. The Last Jedi did not do what I wanted it to do, but I still ended up enjoying it. I did not enjoy The Rise of Skywalker myself, but there are some big upsides to the movie, and I think you have a really good approach to it, Dropkick Aggie, and the most important thing is what did you think about the movie? How did you feel it? Did it have you feeling satisfied when you walked out of the theater? And that's true of any movie. And if it did for you, that's the important thing, and that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, Johnny Ray writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. And this is a $50 tip. Thank you so much for that, Johnny Ray. If there is a question in here, we will answer it in its own standalone video. I just began watching The Witcher and Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill is great in it. It's a shame the way Warner Brothers has been stringing him along with regards to Superman. Should he jump ship and go to the MCU? All right, I'll just touch, like I said, Johnny Ray, because you supported us on that level, thank you so much. And I will be addressing this in its own standalone video. But Rob, I think too many times we as movie fans look at the business of the entertainment and we think it's all the actor centric. It all revolves around the actor.
Right.
Look, I can tell you right now, Warner Brothers is not stringing Henry Cavill along. They are going to make decisions to do what they want to do, what they think is best for them to do with their property, Superman. And if Henry Cavill right now has the privilege of playing Superman and has had the privilege of playing Superman, and by the way, he's my all-time favorite Superman. I love Henry Cavill. But they shouldn't go, oh, well, we owe it to Henry Cavill to make a bad business decision. No, they have to make decisions about the characters regardless of who the actor is playing it. But I'll go into more depth on that when I answer it in a standalone. Rob, do you have any sort of response to that?
No, I mean, I think you're right. There's a myriad of decisions that are being made in an actor's career by not just him or her, but by their whole team of people, lawyers, managers, agents, scheduling. If you have someone like Henry Cavill, you're not thinking about your career on a project by project basis. You're thinking about it on a year by year, if not decade by decade basis. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And there's just a lot going on there. It's not as simple or cut and dried as people might think.
And by the way, oh my God, yes, Henry Cavill is awesome in The Witcher. If you haven't started watching Henry Cavill in The Witcher, make sure you start watching Henry Cavill in The Witcher. All right, Jared Oberfeld writes, John, you were right about the Patriots. Also, if I came across Collider's Jack Hind stranded in the street or on the road in a blizzard, I would just keep driving after what he tweeted. If you want respect, give respect. Well, hey, if he's stranded inside in a blizzard, I would suggest that you pick him up. I mean, look, in my estimation, the kid said some really stupid things and needed to be set straight. That said, let me be clear about something. Jack Hind didn't beat baby kittens to death with a bat. All right? He didn't steal a kid's candy on Halloween. He said some really stupid things and was responded to in kind. But let's not make him out to be, and I was really upset with what he said, and I expressed it as such, but let's not make the kid out to be the devil incarnate. So I would say if you came across Jack Hind stranded on the side of the road in a blizzard and may die of frostbite, I would suggest maybe the good thing to do would maybe be to stop and pick him up along the side of the road. All right. Thanks for writing that in, though, Jared. All right. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, The Oscars has a YouTube channel with clips for Oscars winning speeches for the last 30 years. So far, DiCaprio's win has the most watched with 26 million views. Wow. And the closest to that is Heath Ledger's with 15 million. All the rest each have less than 9 million. That's interesting to me. The only thing off the top of my head, Rob, that I can think about why that might be the case is the fact that, well, for DiCaprio it was a long time coming. Because a lot of people feel like he could have won an Academy Award a couple of different times along the way. So, I mean, what else? Why do you attribute that to, that he has the most watch of acceptance speeches?
Well, I think because he's probably, for this generation, one of the most watched actors. I mean, I love watching those clips. I'm a fiend for those Oscar Channel clips on YouTube because I go back and I watch the opening ceremonies from the 1968 Oscars, and being a film fan, to be able to go see the Bob Hope hosted Oscars. I mean, nowadays people are like, who's Bob Hope? And again, I've always said that pop culture has a half-life of about 20 years. And I mean, Heath Ledger, especially now with all the Oscar talk of maybe Joaquin Phoenix winning an Oscar, has there ever been two actors that won an Oscar for playing essentially the same role? This could be an amazing occurrence. A comic book character is responsible
Godfather.
For, okay, well, yes. But wait a minute. I mean, two different actors playing the same role? Well,
they both
played De Niro and
Marlon Brando both played Vito Corleone.
But did they win Oscars?
I believe they both won Oscars. Did they win, or were they both nominated?
That's a good question.
I believe De Niro. I could be wrong. Guys in the live chat, answer this. I believe De Niro won Best Supporting Actor for that, and I think Brando won Best Leading Actor. I know Brando won.
They both won Oscars for playing
it would
character.
Count. No, I'm being guys in the Vince, Kay Walton, Archie. They're saying they actually both won Academy Awards for playing the same character. So it would only be the second time in history. And again, it would be a lead actor and a supporting actor, because Heath, of course, won for Best Supporting. Joaquin would, if he does win, and I still think that's a long shot, but if he does win, that would be for lead actor.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
It is. I think it's neat indeed. All right. Still got a ton of questions to go here, guys. HV3 writes, how about the playoffs this weekend? There was some good football this weekend. My Vikings won. Sorry about your Patriots losing, but you did call that. I knew they weren't going to go beat the Titans.
Seahawks.
And the Seahawks did win. Rob, I hope your Seahawks beat the Packers. Listen, that's now that the Patriots are out, that's the team I'm getting behind, is now the Seahawks moving through. I do hope they beat the Packers. It's going to be a tall order. Packers are playing some good football, man. I'm not a Packers fan, but they are playing some
it's at Lambeau Field,
football.
So it's going to be a tough game.
Tough game. I thought, man, that Buffalo game. Oh my God, that Buffalo game was so good. The Patriots game came right down to the wire. The New Orleans Saints game went right into overtime. I mean, there was some good football this weekend, man. Some really, really good football. TJ Lynn writes, for me, Pixar movies that really got me emotional are the ones involving human characters like Up and Coco. With due respect, never fans of Toy Story due to manipulating emotional tearjerker. I guess I can't wrap my head around toy characters. I mean, I think that's understandable. Like, I disagree. I've gotten very emotional in some Toy Story movies, particularly like the whole Inferno scene in Toy Story 3, the goodbye scene in Toy Story 4. I think they've done some really, really good things. Inside Out. Oh my God, when the little girl finally embraces her sadness. And if you've seen the movie, I'm getting goosebumps right now. My arm, look, can you see if the hair on my arms is all stand up? The scene where the little girl and the emotions in her finally allow her to just embrace her sadness. Oh my God, that broke me up. Coco. Oh my God. Oh, Mama Coco. Oh my God, they got me so emotional. Rob, do you have any particular standout moments in any Pixar films that were really emotional for you?
Up.
Oh God. The opening.
The beginning of Up, dude.
Listen, the end of Life is Beautiful, the beginning of Up. If you're not crying or at least getting choked up and holding back tears, your heart was gone. Your heart is just dust.
Also, I didn't see it in a theater, which is one of the great regrets of my life, actually. But Coco, all of Coco got me. There were times when I would maybe not cry time, but I was very moved by Coco overall.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was moved through the whole thing. And it's another one of those films that, like, say, Wall-E and Up, as a matter of fact, that I didn't even think looked that good. I just didn't even think it looked that interesting. And it was when I walked out of Coco for the first time that I'm like, I don't care. I mean, the next Pixar film could be of Bob Iger scratching his balls for 2.5 minutes. And I'm just going to believe that the movie's going to be awesome if it's Pixar, because I am 100% out of the doubting Pixar business. Because I'll tell you, man, they didn't look good to me, and they still ended up being absolutely fabulous.
Dude, I mean, Coco, I saw it on Blu-ray, put it on the disc, and I was astonished by how it looked. And I love all that iconography, you know, that the Central American, Mexican, that whole, I didn't grow up with it in Seattle, but I've always loved, that's one of the great joys of living in LA is Latino culture. And I love that movie so much.
All right, let's keep things moving here. We got to start motoring here. Suthius writes, hey guys, I'm seeing a lot of support for the talents who were let go and seeing a lot of support for you, Mr. Campea, and your stance. You are why I have kept up with you and your content since the fall of 2012. Thank you so much for that. Because of your character and your integrity, your superpower really is the ability to find good people / talent and give them the foundation to make something of themselves. Yes, even Mr. One Foot in the Grave. Guys like Mr. Burnett, Mr. Knapsack, Christian, Mr. Schnepp, etc. are why I love the movie pundit space. And yeah, there are a lot of very, very talented people. And you know, there's a lot of things I don't do well. There's a hell of a lot of things I don't do well. It's true. A lot of stuff I don't do well. There are a couple of things I do okay. But I honestly think I've always felt in my self-evaluation, I've always felt that what I am particularly good at, and everybody's got something they're particularly good at, I just think this is the one thing I might be particularly good at, is identifying talented people. But beyond that, knowing how to put them in positions that give them the best opportunities to succeed. Now, that doesn't mean I do it right all the time, but not at all. I've made mistakes. Absolutely, I've made mistakes. But it's really cool to see the amount of talent that is out there and people in the space. And some of them are without a gig right now. And I don't believe that's going to be the case for long. So it is really, really cool to see that sort of stuff out there, Rob. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I feel the same way. I one of the things I really enjoyed about working at Collider was, well, I met you. And I really liked all the people there. And I've done things. I've been over at Screen Junkies. Like, I'm a huge fan of Dan Murrell and Roth and people like that. And I think we've been lucky to work in this space where it really is full of a bunch of nice, talented people. And I think that's pretty great and enthusiastic because everybody loves what they're doing. You know, it's been the one place where I've met the least amount of douchebags in my professional career. You know, and it's been nice. It's been good because ultimately at its core, everybody here is enthusiastic and knowledgeable and is, I think, here for the right reasons.
All right, let's move on here, guys. Jonathan writes, hey, John, here's my quick movie review for 1917. This movie better win Best Cinematography, immersive, impactful. I jumped whenever people started shooting. It was tense and yet tender moments, showing the horrors of war and that one-shot perfection. Grade A. And listen, the one thing that people are talking about most, Rob, when it comes to 1917 seems to be the cinematography. Although Mendes did last night at the Golden Globes, not that I care, but he happened to win Best Director, I believe. So that's one thing. But the one thing everybody's talking most about 1917, and I haven't had a chance to see it yet. That's like the last film on my list now. It's like that one and Little Women. I still got to squeeze in Little Women, but everybody's talking about the cinematography. It's just gorgeous. So I haven't asked if you had a chance to run out and see it yet, because it's only playing in a couple of theaters. It's still a limited release.
Yeah, it's supposed to open wide. I can't wait to see it. I mean, they say it's one shot, but you know, it's multiple shots.
No, I heard it's made to feel like it's one shot. Yeah.
Well, there's one shot that I've seen where just where a plane crashes. Right. And it looks like it dips under the horizon and crashes, and then it comes back up and comes right at. It's jaw dropping.
Yeah,
I saw it. And and Roger Deakins, man, that dude. I was a huge with the stuff he did with Coen Brothers, the Shawshank Redemption, and Roger Deakins is him and Robbie Richardson, or as I know, Robert Richardson. I don't know if his name's Robbie Richardson, but those two guys can do no wrong. They're just amazing cinematographers.
All right, let's move on here. Next one also comes to us from Jonathan, who writes, also saw Togo, couldn't finish it, not because it's bad, just because I can't watch sad dog movies. So when I knew there was where the story was going, I turned it off. Was already in tears. My critic in me says it's a B movie, not the best dog movie, but it has great acting and beautiful chemistry. But as a dog lover, I give it an A. My question is, are there movies where, as a critic, you give it a B, but as a fan, you grade it higher? Not guilty pleasure. No, see, because like the foundation for me, and this is where I'm a little bit different, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to approach discussing how you feel about a film. To me, movies are experiential events. Movies are meant to deliver us an experience, whether that experience is joy or laughter or fear or shock or contemplation or whatever. Movies, their primary thing they need to do is to deliver to us that experience. And if I walk out of a movie having had a fully satisfying experience, I personally would grade a movie on that. Now, you also know I no longer grade movies. I don't give ranks or numerical values or letter values. I don't grade or rank movies at all. I just tell you what I thought about the movie. Tell you whether I liked it and how much I liked it, whether I didn't like it, how much I didn't, but I don't give ranks or numbers. But yeah, to me, it's all about what was the experience it gave me. When I walked out, did I feel like I had a great, satisfying experience? And that's all it is to me, regardless of whether you want to talk about the cinematography quality or the narrative quality. At the end of the day, it's did I have the experience that the filmmakers wanted me to have? And did I walk out feeling satisfied by that? Rob, how do you approach things like that?
No, I completely agree. I mean, sure, there are genres of movies that I like more than others. And as a dog lover myself, I mean, I think back to the first dog movie I loved was A Boy and His Dog back in the in the 70s. I wouldn't necessarily call that a movie for dog lovers, but I don't, like you said, I want a movie to be, whether it's a big budget movie, a low budget movie, whatever genre it is, I want to be transported. I want to be immersed in a great story with great characters. And I don't care ultimately what kind of a story and what kind of characters they are, as long as I am transported and enveloped by the, like you said, experience that the movie provides.
All right. Well said. Okay, let's move on to the next question here. And the next question today comes to us from Annan Y. Moas, who writes, I've decided that Cats is the most inspirational movie of 2019. After seeing it, I realized that if that movie can make it into theaters, then anything is possible. What a litter box of a movie. You know, and here's the funny thing, and people think I'm being facetious, Rob, when I say this, but it's absolutely true. I honestly think that the people at, it's Universal, right? Or Warner Brothers. I can't remember.
I don't
for argument's
even know.
sake, for argument's sake, let's say Universal. For argument's sake, I'm forgetting the studio behind it. I honestly believe, Rob, that going into this film, they were expecting people to love it. I think they tried something very bold. They clearly did. They tried something very different. They clearly did. Things that we as movie fans are always screaming that we want our filmmakers to do. That doesn't mean we have to like it when they do it. But I'm just saying we always ask our filmmakers to do things that are new and things that are bold and things that are different. They certainly did all three with Cats. But the results weren't good. So that's a good. But I honestly think a lot of people over there at the studio, I think they knew it in the closing months before the film opened. I think they knew they weren't sitting on a big box office smash. They saw the tracking numbers. But I think they are taken aback, I think, a bit by the negative reaction to it. And it's unfortunate because you want every movie to be good and you want all the movies to succeed and you want people to do well. But hey, when you swing for the fences, a lot of times you'll strike out. And unfortunately, this is one of the times they struck out.
At least people are talking about it.
It's true. It's true. At least people are talking about it. All right, let's move on here. Next up is Jacob Silvers. Big win for my Vikings yesterday. Too bad for your Pats. Yeah, I mean, but look, at the beginning of the year, I said, look, the Patriots have no weapons this year. They've got Edelman, but all they got to do is triple team Edelman, and then that's it. They're done. And I said at the beginning of the year, they are not going to the Super Bowl this year. I don't expect them to go deep into the playoffs. They'll win their division because it's their division. They always do. And then going into the weekend, I said the Tennessee Titans will beat the Patriots. Not a big surprise, and it ended kind of the way that I thought. And it is too bad, but whatever. They had a fantastic season regardless. 12-4. That's a great season. Most teams would kill to have that kind of a season. And now we get to watch the rest of the great football. And Vikings, I like Kirk Cousins. I liked him even back when he was on the Redskins. So I'm happy for them at the same time. A little bummed out for, why did I just freeze on the New Orleans? Why am I freezing on the New Orleans quarterback's name? Yeah. He's like one of the greatest of all time. Why am I suddenly? Yeah. I'm looking at his face with his little scar.
No, you have made me do that too.
why am I freezing on like the one of the greatest quarterbacks in the world? I can't remember. Anyway, let's move on here. Andres Martinez writes, when shall we get more thoughts on walks? Okay, so the problem with thoughts on walks, and everybody's writing and think Drew Brees. Why I froze on Drew Brees' name? I have no idea. I love Drew Brees.
Thinking, yeah.
Andres Martinez writes, when should we get more thoughts on walks? It's difficult because I did these videos called Thoughts on Walks. Here's the trick, though. I would always wrap up a bunch of my work, and then at about 5:30 at night is when I would have time to then go out and do my thoughts on walks. And then the time change happened. And all of a sudden now, the time when I'm free to go out and do one of my walks, it's dark outside. And I haven't been able to do my thoughts on walks because I don't have the time to go out while there's actually still sunlight outside so you can actually see me. So I'm hoping a return to thoughts on walks happens soon. I'm just not sure when it might have to be once the time changes back. We'll have to wait and see. Nathan Oswald writes, top 10 of 2019. Number 10, Alita. Number 9, Richard Jewell. Number 8, Jumanji. I disagree about Jumanji. Anyway, number 7, El Camino. I also didn't like El Camino all that much. Number 6, Zombieland. I got a kick out of that one. Number 5, Endgame. Number 4, Joker. Number 3, Fighting with My Family. Such an underrated film this year. Number 2, Ford v Ferrari. And number 1, The Rise of Skywalker. So, hey, that's a very eclectic, mixed up list there. I like that. You got some heavy drama, true life story, Richard Jewell. You got a Star Wars movie in there. You got another based on real thing like Ford v Ferrari. You got Alita Battle Angel. It's a nice kind of eclectic list in there, Nathan. I like it. All right. Casey Thurman just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Casey. Raymond Verrata writes, I know you don't care about the Golden Globes, but Ricky Gervais hosting the Globes is the opposite of the no-host Oscars. He doesn't care. Anne would have loved the Tom Hanks tribute. We did watch the Tom Hanks tribute. Just so you know, we did. Obviously, with Anne, we had to watch the Tom Hanks tribute. Real, when they gave him the Cecil B. DeMille Award, that was really, really good. That was really, really well done. I thought they did that with a lot of class and a lot of grace, and Tom Hanks was perfect, of course, because he's Tom Hanks. Such a great thing, Raymond. All right, Sophie N writes, damn, so I was watching the Golden Globes last night, and during Bong Joon-ho's speech, all I could think about is how attractive his translator was. She herself looks like a celebrity. Anyway, congrats to Parasite. Rob, did you watch the Golden Globes? Did you see that speech or who this translator was?
He said something to the effect of, once you get past the barrier of 1-inch subtitles.
The 1-inch barrier of subtitles, right. I read that quote.
There's a whole world of films out there you can see. I thought what a great line.
What was he, because Best Director went to Mendes. What was Bong Joon-ho up there for?
I think Best Foreign Film.
Oh, right, of course, because Parasite won for that, obviously. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But I love that he said that. I mean, I grew up watching subtitled movies, but it was very funny. That was very funny. That was a great line.
Okay, we just have time for a couple more questions here while Robert's still here. Dimsum05 writes, Gio, I got a confession to make. Me and my nephew began watching Doom Patrol. Great show, but by episode 4, I'm ready to throw in the towel, and I come to a realization that I was too stubborn to admit. I hate binging. Mandalorian was easy. Week to week for me helps. And Rob, I think more and more people, like when I started to say that I'm actually finding, number one, that I think the week-to-week model was better for business. But then once Mandalorian came out and then I started watching Witcher that was dropped in a binging format, I realized not only is it better for business, I think it's just a better viewing experience watching week to week now. I didn't used to feel that way before, but I'm really starting to feel that.
I totally do.
And so Dim-Sum05, I totally see where you're coming from. I really do. Like the thing with the Witcher is, which nobody's talking about The Witcher anymore, just a week and a bit after it came out, no one's talking about it anymore, is that, when Mandalorian came out, dude, we could not only could we watch one new episode every week, we could talk about the new episode for a full week. Everybody was up to date and on the same page. And like, it was just a better fan experience, you know, for me going through Mandalorian, and we were able to talk about and celebrate Mandalorian for 2 months.
Yep.
Witcher was fantastic. But a few days later, nobody's talking about it anymore because they dropped all the episode at once. A bunch of people binged it. Nobody's on the same episode. Can't really talk about it openly. Blah, 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 blah. And so I get where dim sum's coming from, Robbie. Have you been experiencing that at all? Or are you still feeling like you like your binge sessions?
No, I loved my binge sessions. I do. But I have to say, when the shows are gone, I'm left empty. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I watched the 3rd season. It's gone. The Expanse, which I love, the 4th season, it's gone. I binged Lost in Space over the weekend. Gone. You know, and I'm left like, what am I going to look? I'm finally going to maybe look at V-Wars. You know, I mean, there's a lot of... I watched Don't Fuck with Cats. That was only 3 episodes. That's gone. And I really liked the Mandalorian. Elizabeth and I were having Mandalorian mornings when we would get up, and before I came on this show, we would watch the Mandalorian together. I made coffee, fed the dogs, and we'd settle in and watch the Mandalorian. And I miss Mandalorian mornings, and they're gone, and they're not going to come back until the fall. What's up with that, John? Why don't they just make Mandalorian episodes for 52 weeks?
All right. The last question here that we'll have while Rob is still with us before he's got to take off. Lawrence writes in, there's only one Birds of Prey trailer, and it came out 4 months ago, and the movie comes out next month. Thoughts? I don't think that's true. I believe we have 2 trailers, do we not?
Yes.
Is not the one where she's in the car at the end says, never call me blah, 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 I'll accept bitch, or something like that. That was the second trailer, was it not?
Yeah, they released some teaser, something or other. I don't know.
Right. So it's who cares how many trailers they put out? I mean, it's okay if they think that. Look, if they put out the second trailer and thought this is our trailer, we can't do it better than in this trailer, then stick with that trailer. I mean, it's not like you have to put out a new trailer to remind us that the movie's coming out. We know it's coming. They gave us the trailer. It's okay. That's my thoughts on it at any rate. Hey, listen, Rob, we know you got things you got to do here. So thank you for being here, my friend. In the meantime, where can people find you and your adventures online before they see you here again tomorrow?
You can see me on Twitter. You can read about me or read my tweets at Burnett RM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or come to my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and watch my show, Robservations.
All right, dude. Hey, thanks a lot for being here again today, Rob, and we will see you again tomorrow.
All right, sir.
All right, have a good one, my friend. All right, guys, with that down, and we thank again Robert Meyer Burnett for being here for that. That's always awesome having him here. It is time for us to move on with the live questions that you guys have been sending in. So let's keep on rolling here. The next one up comes to us from Superman Steve, who writes, John, do you think it was disrespectful for Jason Momoa to wear a tank top to the Golden Globe Awards? Also, on behalf of Australia, wanted to thank you for bringing awareness to everybody about the brush fires. We need all the help we can get. And again, please take care of yourself. That is just like I heard, there's some fires in Australia. Okay, because we have fires in LA. But then when I started to see the maps, like how much of Australia is on fire, it is crazy. So yeah, guys, please do make yourselves aware about what's going on over there. It's a big thing. I got to admit, okay, first of all, I love Jason Momoa. I think he's great. I have to admit, when I was watching we were watching just around the Tom Hanks stuff. And I think I saw one award got given out before Tom Hanks, and somebody walked by and we saw Jason Momoa sitting there in a tank top. Do I think it was disrespectful? I don't know. That's strong. That's strong. Do I think maybe it was, you know what? I won't use as strong of a word as disrespectful. I'll use the word inappropriate. Inappropriate, I think, is less severe than flat out like I'm disrespecting you. I thought maybe it was inappropriate. Like in a night where everybody else there is dressing up to celebrate the evening and to celebrate each other's accomplishments and to really class up the thing, I thought it was inappropriate. Now, does it lessen my admiration of Jason Momoa in the least? No, not at all. Do I think this should be an issue? No, not at all. But if you're going to ask me the question, I'll say, yeah, I thought it was a little inappropriate. But whatever. Now we move on. He's probably going to take more heat from other people for it, but I just thought it was inappropriate. He should have wore something else, but it's not a big deal. You know, that's how I feel. It's not a big deal. It's okay. All right. Joser Miaz writes, will Hulk appear now in the She-Hulk TV series? No idea. No idea. I doubt it, but I mean, listen, Marvel is more than allowed to use Hulk in properties. They just can't do a Hulk movie without letting Universal be the distributor. Can he be a supporting character in She-Hulk? He can. Will he? We don't know yet. I haven't heard anything about that officially. Film Boss writes, Happy New Year, John. Thank you so much, Film Boss, and Happy New Year to you, my friend. This film has been missing from everybody's online anticipated movies of the year list. I've seen Mank. I was actually reading about Mank the other day. Directed by David Fincher, currently filming. It's about the tumultuous development and production of Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. No, I have been looking at that. I think it partially is because really they haven't been speaking about it at all. And they've done nothing to raise awareness for the project yet. And I think that's probably why it's missing. But Film Boss, I think you're absolutely right on. That is one that we should have on our radar. And shame on us for not actually talking about it more, because you're right. First of all, it's Fincher. About one of the most iconic films of all time. It should be higher on our anticipated list. You're absolutely right. It's more the studio's fault because they haven't decided to really talk about it or promote it or, bring any awareness to it yet, because it's not time to yet. But I still think you're 100% right. It should be mentioned more on our anticipated list. So good on you for bringing that up. Matsiv Jada writes, Ricky Gervais was pretty good last night. Of that, I have no doubt. I didn't watch it, but it's Ricky Gervais. I always just assume he's probably going to do a pretty damn good job. All right. Buddy Christ, the 3 original Jedi writes, 1 of 5. Happy New Year, John and Rob. Spent mine at Disneyland. I was just, no. I was at Universal Studios last night, not Disneyland. Then saw Star Wars Episode 9 for the 3rd time. Man's Chinese Theater. I enjoyed it more each time. While it did have some flaws, all Star Wars films do, if we're being honest, some more than others, I really did enjoy it. Tears, laughter, and space action. Without spoilers, I disagree that The Rise of Skywalker undoes The Last Jedi. Each film is a chapter in the saga. Last Jedi was just a chapter before this one, kind of like Lord of the Rings, though not as epic, but good ones nonetheless. I did prefer Ryan's theme, which pleasantly surprised me, but I think us Star Wars fans had unrealistic expectations, especially One Most Wanted. Not seeing Luke, Leia, Han, Lando, and Chewie all together on screen one last time was a letdown. I'm just glad we're gifted more Star Wars. Were they perfect? No. Like flawed loved ones, we still love them. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And you know what? You're right. I mean, look, I do think, and I'm guilty of this as much as anybody, I think we go into, but it's Star Wars, it's understandable. We went into maybe with some unrealistically high expectations. Sure we did, but it's Star Wars. Of course we're going to. If there's any film franchise that we're going to have unrealistically high expectations for, it's that. Now, for me personally, you guys know The Rise of Skywalker ended up where I didn't enjoy it. Doesn't mean I don't think there were good things about it. There were. And I totally get why a lot of people do love it and all that kind of stuff. But for me, there were just too many flaws personally to have walked out enjoying it. I do concur that while it would have been cheap fan service, because there was no narrative call for it, everybody wanted to see a shot or a scene of Luke, Han, Leia, and Chewie together. Maybe even Lando in there. The people wanted to see them together. And I think that would have been nice. Again, the characters are not there. I mean, the movie is not there to serve the characters. The characters are there to serve the movie. So I get it. The narrative didn't call to have them all in the same place at the same time, then you don't do it. But yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of an ache that we never got to have that scene or that shot. I get it. It didn't work for the narrative. That's fine. But I do think it would have been good. So I think you're right about that. My frustrations with certain things revolve around more, totalic kind of issues, more systemic issues. But that really would have been something kind of nice to see. That would have been some kind of nice to see. So I completely agree. Thanks for sending that in, buddy. I appreciate that. All right. Stubble McShave writes, I don't know if you watched the Golden Globes. I didn't. I thought Stellan Skarsgård's acceptance speech was good. Well, I have no doubt about it. Stellan Skarsgård is so articulate and well-spoken and just a classy, funny dude. I honestly think Skarsgård is like one of the funniest dudes in the business. I really do, but he doesn't come across that way in his roles and how he acts. But I think he's fantastic. Let's see here. Did I miss any other ones? All right, Kenneth Colton writes, hey, John and Rob, obviously we are far away from an X-Men film. How different do you expect it to be than the former films? Can they make it greater? Well, I mean, can they make it greater? Sure, of course they can. Anything they can. Will they make it greater? I don't know. We'll have to see. Like, look, it also depends on which X-Men film we're talking about. Because some X-Men films are some of the best comic book movies ever made. X-Men, the first one, is the movie responsible for us having an MCU today and having the golden age of comic book movies. It's all because of X-Men. All the producers of these movies all agree. It's that movie. It's that first X-Men movie that really planted the foundation for the modern era of comic book movies. X-Men 2 is fabulous. X-Men Days of Future Past, I still contend, is a top 10 greatest comic book movie ever made. Out of that came Deadpool and things like that. So now we also got some crappy movies, X-Men Apocalypse, and a couple of others. That said, Marvel is certainly capable of doing better, but they don't need to be better. Hell, if Marvel can just make some new X-Men films with a different sort of feel to them and make them as good as, say, X-Men 2, as good as X-Men Days of Future Past, then they'll be just fine. Can they do it better? Absolutely. Will they? Well, they don't need to. If they do, great. If they make them just as good, I'm perfectly happy as well. Just, not as good as X-Men Dark Phoenix, more as good as X-Men Days of Future Past. Let's just be clear about that. All right. Let's see. Next one up comes to us from, also Buddy writes, my Star Wars rankings. Number 11, Phantom Menace. Number 10, Clone Wars. Number 9, Revenge of the Sith. Number 8, Solo. Number 7, Return of the Jedi. Number 6, The Rise of Skywalker. Number 5, Rogue One. Number 4, The Force Awakens. Number 3, A New Hope. Number 2, The Last Jedi. And number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. It's always funny to see Star Wars fans. I mean, if you want any more proof that one Star Wars fan is not just like another, that Star Wars fans are vastly different from each other. If you want any more proof of that, just look at every Star Wars fan's listing of how they would rank the Star Wars movies. We all approach these movies differently. We all have our different favorites. Because, like, for instance, buddy, your list looks very different from mine. It looks very different from mine. But that's something we should celebrate, that your list looks so different than mine. So good on you. It's totally different than mine, but good on you for your list. All right. Ian Schindler writes, one of two. My Star Wars analogy. You're moving into a new house. You hire cool young designer to whom you say, do your thing, whatever you think is best. But when you go check on how the work is progressing, you get cold feet. Oh, wait, this isn't what I've imagined or what I wanted. That other thing I saw elsewhere. He's pissed and you're disappointed. You hire someone else and salvage the situation. The result is compromise, which is neither designer's vision nor yours. That's why there was no clear plan and all the director drama. Yes and no, Ian. Yes and no. Because while Kathy Kennedy did not have an overall plan for the 3 films, she didn't just hire directors and say, go do whatever you want to do. No, she met with directors, got their pitches on it, and then together they worked out, the director would pitch the vision. She believed she got the vision. She said what she wanted her parameters to be, blah, blah, blah. And then they came to an agreement of this is what the movie we're going to make is going to be. Great. You're our director. Go. Only then it turns out that either Kathy Kennedy didn't really understand what the director's vision was, or the directors took too much liberty and started to break away from the movie they agreed to make. That was the case with Lord and Miller. I love Lord and Miller. But the reality is, in that Solo situation, they had come to an agreement with Kathy Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan and things like that about the movie they're going to make, and then they started making something totally different. So that wasn't cool. But again, I still hold Kathy Kennedy responsible for that, because she should have made sure it was ironclad that they were on the same page with each other. And then she should have been giving more oversight to the movie as it was progressing, so they didn't just find out it was totally the wrong movie that they agreed to then 90% of the way through filming. You know what I mean? So it's not just that Kathleen Kennedy, it's a misnomer to say Kathleen Kennedy just hired directors, said, no, you just go do whatever you want to do. That's not how it happened. But she still should have had a story laid out for the 3 films before embarking on them, and a lot of director drama and a lot of stuff like that. So there's some things about your analogy that don't quite work, Ian, but there's also some things in your analogy there that I think are spot on as well. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, did you see the Golden Globes last night? No, I did not. I don't watch the Golden Globes. Were there surprise winners that you didn't see coming? Oh, and I can't help but wonder, because of Pierce Brosnan's look, but do you think he's going to play Colonel Sanders in some sort of biopic? I saw a picture of Pierce Brosnan last night. I certainly didn't think Colonel Sanders. But because I don't watch the Golden Globes, nor do I think that any of their results have any validity whatsoever, I really don't pay attention to it. I will say this, though. I did have a bunch of people texting me and tweeting to me last night and sending me messages when Missing Link won Best Animated Film instead of, Toy Story 4 or any of the other animated films of this year. A lot of people were surprised by that, but to me, it's just like, I don't care. It's the Golden Globes. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really count because it's the Golden Globes. Who cares? Anyway. But I heard, once again, they put on a great show, which is what the Golden Globes do. Listen, full credit. I don't like the Globes. I have no respect for the Globes. But they do put on a great show. I didn't see last night's show myself, but I've been told that, like normal, they put on a really good show. And always got to give them that credit. All right. Darth Sidious writes, so my question will be Yoda in the new movies. So my question is, will Yoda be in the new movies? I'm going to guess no. At least, and right now I'm just guessing. It's just a wild guess. I'm going to guess no, at least not as a significant character. It might cameo. The Yoda character may cameo in it. I don't think it'll be a central figure, though, in the movies. But I could be totally wrong about that. I'm just taking a wild guess at this place. Don't hold me to that. All right, Daniel Arari writes, thanks for the tip about the movie. I Saw the Devil. It was absolutely fantastic. Great acting and really well-written story. See, this again, Daniel, is why it's so great when people write in recommendations. Because it's not just me seeing the recommendation, it's other fans seeing the recommendation, thousands of other fans seeing the recommendation, and now they get to go and check out that movie. So thank you for sending that in, Daniel, and thank you again to the people who wrote in before to recommend I Saw the Devil. And I did get the email, by the way. Somebody sent me an email with the I Saw the Devil link in there. I did see that email, just so you know. And again, thank you to everybody who sends in recommendations, because you're not just recommending it to me, you're recommending it to the whole film fan community that's here. So thank you for that. All right. K Major writes, hey, John and Rob, I saw The Rise of Skywalker 2 twice. Had to confirm my disdain for it. It's confirmed. One thing I felt the movie lacked was epicness. I grew up on the original trilogy, and I can say for me that Jedi had an epic feel to its ending. What did you think? Well, look, you already know I'm not a fan. I don't like the Rise of Skywalker. Okay, whatever. But they do some things well. And I don't know that they didn't give it a feel of epicness, of a grand scale. I do feel like they did deliver on a grand scale. There's a few things they delivered. They delivered very good humor. I thought the humor in the film was sharp and on point. I thought a lot of the action was quite good. I do feel like we got a sense of the scale. Maybe they could have been better in that. But just overall, I had too many problems with it that even though it had some very good things in it, I just couldn't get on board with it. And I saw it 3 times. But epicness is, again, it's one of those things that is very hard to discuss because everybody's got a slightly different definition in their head about what does epic mean. What does it mean? Because it could mean one thing to one person, could mean something to somebody else. Kind of like spoiler. To one person, a spoiler means one thing. To another person, a spoiler means something completely different. So it's difficult to kind of nail that down. So all I can say about a K Major myself is that I did feel the sense of scale. I did feel that. Wasn't enough to make me like the movie, but I did personally kind of feel that. But that's just me. We probably just defined the term a little bit differently, but that's interesting to know your observation on that. All right, K Major also writes, to me, one of the best scenes in Ford v Ferrari was when Bale was on the track with his son at night and having that heartfelt conversation. It reminded me that I don't need explosions and booms to enjoy a film. I'll tell you what. I was talking, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Cody Miller. It might have been when I was talking to Cody Miller the other day. And by the way, Cody, speaking of Cody Miller, the new season of Best Movie, Worst Movie, the new season of podcasts, we're going to do 6 to 8 episodes for the next season, is coming back at the end of January. We're going to be recording the new season probably the 3rd week of January is when me, Robert, and Cody Miller are going to be recording. Cody, of course, is heavily in preparation for the upcoming Summer Olympics, seeing if he can take home another gold medal. But we're going to be recording that in a couple of weeks, so that's coming back. But I think I was talking to Cody the other day. I said, you know what? One of my, if not my absolute favorite movie of the decade, and I haven't done my list yet, so I'm not quite sure what it'll end up, but it might be number one, might be The King's Speech. And that movie is just two dudes, a lot of different scenes of just two dudes sitting in a room and talking. And it is so bloody compelling. And so you just become enraptured in it. It's such a gloriously good movie. You know, the new movie that's also out now, The Two Popes, is also that. Two Popes is basically 80% two guys sitting in different rooms talking to each other. And it's brilliant. And it's absolutely brilliant. And you're right. I don't need I love my explosions. Y'all know I love my explosions, but you don't have to have explosions to make a damn great movie. Ryan Lohner writes, I typically have no problem with gore. With my knowing it isn't real, letting me watch any of it with no problem. But I was broken and had to look away with the climax of that one. Of course, with what's the guy whose name who plays Pike in the Kelvin Star Wars movies? Bruce Greenwood. Bruce Greenwood is in that as well. Listen, there are some. You know what I think it is? It goes back to what I was talking about with A Quiet Place. I think the reason why I can watch something like in A Quiet Place with alien monsters ripping somebody together, that is so dissociated from my sense of reality that it doesn't have, it's fun to watch, but it's not like hitting me on a visceral level because it's so dissociated from my actual reality and my actual experience. But then I see somebody walking down some stairs and stepping on a rusty nail sticking out of a stair. That I have total association with that. Not that I stepped on a nail, but I know I could. Because to me, that was real and somewhere in my brain, because it felt so feasible that could happen. I'm not going to walk outside tomorrow and have an alien monster rip me to shreds. I could absolutely step on a nail tomorrow. And I think there's a part of our brains that when something feels possible, it heightens that reaction. I don't know how else to put it other than that, but I think it kind of heightens the reaction to that. Anyway, it's an interesting observation, Ryan. All right, Fabian Vegas writes, hey guys, where's all the Birds of Prey marketing? The film is 1 month away, and I keep having to remind myself that it's coming out. What gives? Well, I think a couple things. Number one, it's still a month away. It's still a full month away. And we've got Oscar nominations coming out and stuff like that. We all know the movie's coming. They've already put out trailers. Actually, I just saw a movie the other day, and a Birds of Prey trailer was playing in front of it. So there's that as well. So I'm not terribly worried about it at this point. I'm not. Everybody knows the movie's coming. I'm not terribly worried about it. I don't think they want to spend $150 million on the marketing of the film. That doesn't seem like a good use of finances to me. But you know what? I think I can take these off now because I'm not talking to Robert now, so I can take the headphones off. Yay me. So I don't think there's an issue. I don't have any issue with it right now. I'm seeing a bunch of marketing. It's still a month away. So personally, I'm not really worried about it. Now, we get like 1 week out and I don't see any marketing for the film. I might get a little worried. But when I drive down Sunset, I'm seeing Birds of Prey billboards. I'm in the theater. I'm seeing Birds of Prey posters. I'm actually sitting in the theater. I see Birds of Prey trailers. So yeah, I just don't see this big lack of marketing. They're clearly not doing a big heavy marketing push right now, but I'm not seeing a lack of marketing right now. But that's just my perception. That's just my perception. All right. Let's see here. Ethan Nichols writes, "Hey, John, with Yoda probably being in his prime in that era, do you think he'll be our main hero? I hope not, but I would love to hear your thoughts." Again, I kind of addressed that already. I suspect no. Maybe a cameo, but I suspect he's not going to be one of the central figures of the movie. But again, that's wild speculation and guessing on my part 24 hours after an unconfirmed report came out. So based on that, I don't think so. They very well could, but right now I'm just wildly guessing that I don't think so. All right, Dylan Knight writes and sends in a $50 tip. Thank you so much. If there's a question in here, we're going to answer your question in its own standalone video. Regarding new Star Wars films, the Clone Wars show depicted Yoda facing his shadow, one basic Jungian model of the psyche, meaning no Jedi before then was fully actualized. Do you think they'll contradict this canon to give us character development in these new films? Again, I think we're getting way too focused on the Yoda character. And by the way, I don't think they're going to worry too much about stuff that's in cartoons. Cartoons are canon. They should stick to the canon. Right now, we're already in a situation where Mandalorian apparently contradicts a lot of stuff that we know about the Mandalorians from Rebels and Clone Wars. Apparently. They may give some explanation for it later that might rectify all of it. But look, the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of people out there have never seen Rebels, have never seen Clone Wars. That's just the reality of it. So I have a feeling sticking to the canon of the cartoon stuff is not their top priority. I'm not saying, don't get mad at me, I'm not saying it shouldn't be their top priority. I'm not saying it shouldn't be an important thing. I'm just saying right now, with the way things have been going, I'm not sure they're terribly worried about it. I don't think it's high on their concern list right now. And I think things we've been seeing lately kind of point to that. Again, I'm not talking about shouldas. I'm talking about wouldas. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. But again, I'll go more into that, Dylan, when we do answer your question in its own standalone video. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, man. Really appreciate it. All right. Jin Darren writes, since public opinion on Star Wars sequel trilogy seems to have soured with The Rise of Skywalker, what could happen to Galaxy's Edge being set in that timeline? Well, I mean, listen, don't forget, despite the fact that I don't like the movie, the vast majority of movie audiences do like Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. That's just a quantifiable fact. I mean, maybe there's a lot of people in our little movie talking spheres that don't, but the reality is it's been quantifiably proven that the vast majority of average moviegoers do like The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not one of them, but I mean, that's the fact. But what is interesting, you bring up something interesting here, Jen, because in a week or two, I'm going to Disneyland to go to Galaxy's Edge again, because the brand new ride that's already open in Orlando, but it's opening up here in California, the Rise of the Resistance. I think that's the name of the new ride. And everybody is raving about this ride. Everybody is raving about all the people who went and did the test ridings of it. Everybody's losing their minds for it. But I saw in one of the promotions for it that, Kylo Ren's jabs his lightsaber down into your cockpit that you're in and all this kind of stuff. Is like, well, yeah, but now we know Kylo Ren got, stupid move, but they had Kylo Ren get redeemed. So is it now out of pace with where those Star Wars movies were? So I was thinking this exact same thing, Jen, the other day. Like, do they change Galaxy's Edge now that Galaxy's Edge doesn't reflect where the Star Wars universe is right now? Because Galaxy's Edge right now is a reflection of the galaxy under the domination of the First Order as ruled by Kylo Ren. But that's not where the movies are now. So do they change it? I don't know. It's a good question. We'll have to wait and see. But I cannot wait for that ride, man. I cannot wait for that ride. All right, Matt Torres sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, Matt. We appreciate that around here, man. Do you think we could see Batu, speaking of Galaxy's Edge, used in Mandalorian Season 2 with Galaxy's Edge focus on the sequel trilogy, and now you're just saying what I was just saying. And now that it's over and fairly divisive, do you think they need to do something with the long-term viability of the land? I don't know. Again, I've always felt, look, first of all, I love Galaxy's Edge. I really do. But I've always felt one of the missed opportunities they had was to incorporate, they should have incorporated more original trilogy material into Galaxy's Edge. I've always felt that. Instead, they decided to base Galaxy's Edge entirely on the new era Star Wars films. Fine. But now that new era is done. So what do they do with it? And so to answer the first question, no, I don't think we're going to see Batu in Mandalorian Season 2. I don't think they're going to bring that into it. I mean, it would be interesting if they do. I don't think they will, though. I don't know that they won't. I don't think they will. It could be an interesting move for them to do that. I just don't think they will. But will they overall change the direction of Galaxy's Edge in general to reflect the new status of the galaxy? Don't know. I think they should. Maybe they already have a plan to do that, but we'll have to wait and see. Good question, man. Murray Reich writes, I'm a big Drew Brees fan, and I feel so bad for Saints fans. I myself thought that they would have a big chance of getting to the Super Bowl. So did I. It's crazy that this is the first time that a 13-3 team didn't get a bye, if I'm not mistaken. That's some really good trivia right there. I'll have to go back through that. A 13-3 team that did not get a bye. Because I know, like, obviously the Patriots were 12-4 and they didn't get a bye. All they had to do was beat the Miami frickin' Dolphins. All New England had to do was beat the terrible Miami Dolphins on the final game of the season. They would have got a first round bye. Instead, they got beat and then had to play the Titans, who've had their number for the last couple of years. It was frustrating, Murray. But I feel bad for Brees, too, because I love Drew Brees. All right. Clay Woodley writes, do you think A Quiet Place 2 opening before Mulan will hurt its box office? No. This is a situation where you're talking about completely different demographics. Mulan is clearly a movie that's going after a very different audience and is a very different kind of movie than what A Quiet Place 2 is. Look, all movies are, to some small degree, all movies are impacted by all other movies around them. Right? That's just the nature of the business. Every movie, even if it's just by the tiniest bit, every movie is affected to some degree by all the other movies that play around it. The question becomes, will it be significantly impacted by that? And I think that these movies are so vastly different from each other that I really don't think there's going to be a significant difference. Some impact? Sure. Just like all the time. Significant? I don't think so. Meta writes, even though The Witcher is based more on the books, it's no surprise that it had more of a video game following. Do you think this show could be a way to usher in video game adaptations? I don't know, because we've been saying that for so long. And the fact of the matter is, the reality is, The Witcher is not a video game adaptation. It's an adaptation of the books. They went out of their way, the showrunners went out of their way many, many times to emphasize that. But way more people have played the games than read the books. So even though it's not a video game adaptation, there are a lot of people who look at it as a video game adaptation. And being that that's the perception, I think it's a very fair question to ask, could this open up the door for more people or more video game adapted material? It might. It very well could. I really like The Witcher, man. I thought this show was great. I cannot wait for season 2, man. And you give me more Yennefer. Give me more Yennefer. I want to see more of it. Anyway, good question, Meta. All right, Antonio D writes, hey, John, with the huge popularity of Baby Yoda, do you think he is now more beloved than old Yoda ever was? No, because, listen, Baby Yoda is super hot right now in this moment in time. And I love Baby Yoda, don't get me wrong. But Master Yoda has been a beloved character for decades and decades and decades. So, no, I will not say that he is now more beloved than Yoda ever was. I think we're talking about, like, ask the question again in 15 years. Are we still talking about Baby Yoda in 15 years? So it's difficult until we give ourselves a little bit more of a historical context. But I'm going to say no. But I love Baby Yoda. So adorable. Let's see where we're at. Ben Rayner writes, I can't believe this New Mutants movie is finally happening. I remember you talking about it all the time way back when you were still on Movie Talk. I know, man. Like, I joke that the first trailer came out, but it was just recently we celebrated like the 2-year anniversary. It was remember we were doing the show? It was a number of months ago, and we were celebrating the 2-year anniversary of the release of the New Mutants trailer. Remember that? And it's crazy, all the drama this thing has gone through. But you know what's going to be funny? Because these actors were so young, when New Mutants comes out, I'm telling you, listen to this. Pay attention to this. When New Mutants comes out and all these actors are doing promotional work for the movie, they are going to look very different than they did in the movie because they shot this movie 3 or 4 years ago. These younger performers shot this movie like 3 or 4 years ago. So they're going to look, I mean, the one girl, Maisie Williams, when the last season of Game of Thrones, she already looks much older and different than she did in the trailer for New Mutants. That was a year ago. Almost a year ago. So by the time this movie comes out, we're going to see Maisie Williams are going to be like, you don't look anything like you look like in that movie because it's been so long. But it is crazy, Ben, to realize it's finally coming out. All right, Mason, listen, guys, we've only got about 15 minutes left here. I want to get through as many of these questions as possible, so I'm going to start upping the pace here a little bit, all right? So hang tight. Mason Larkin. So by the way, guys, since I've only got about 15 minutes left, you might not want to send in any more questions unless you're okay with your questions getting answered in a companion video or being answered first up tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But I'm going to get through as many of the questions right now as we can because we're already past the 2-hour mark. All right. Mason Larkins writes, just read an article from Jeremy Conrad. He's, of course, the guy from MCU Cosmic that we were talking about a little bit earlier, about Marvel Studios possibly already developing projects with Netflix characters, specifically Daredevil and Punisher. Man, I hope it's true, but I doubt it. Well, remember, though, you know, these are characters that they have back now, that they can do whatever they want with. There are some windows of time that they can't do anything for, but that doesn't mean they can't be developing something now. And listen, when you're Marvel, look, I don't know if that story's true, but I have no reason to doubt it because even though they can't make a new Daredevil right now, there's nothing stopping them from hiring a couple of writers and saying, go develop this for 6 months and come to us with some ideas. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. It's not going to be the Charlie Cox Daredevil. It's not going to be the John Bernthal Punisher, but there's nothing stopping them right now from developing that. So I really don't see any reason why this wouldn't be true. It doesn't mean we're going to get Daredevil movies. It doesn't mean we are going to get Punisher movies. But at this point, I don't see any reason to doubt that they would actually have some hired writers working on developing some stuff just to see what they come up with. Listen, they plant the seeds for this stuff long in advance. So we could still be 3 years away from seeing a new iteration of Daredevil or Punisher on the big screen, but that doesn't mean they can't be planting ideas right now and trying to flesh some things out. And let's see where it goes. Thanks for writing that in, Mason. 50 Shades writes, "Oh, Ray, not Ray, like Poe Ray." God, yeah. So that comes from me correcting people because some people write in about Ray, who is my brother-in-law and does the graphics on the show. They write R-E-Y, like Ray from the movies, but it's actually R-A-Y, just so everybody knows. All right. R.J. Technovine writes, "Magic is sick in the New Mutants. I cannot wait anymore." Listen, I'm telling you what, RJ, that trailer got me pumped. I'm excited for this movie. I thought the trailer was really good. Mason writes, "Has anyone heard anything on Morbius? I've heard more about Venom 2, and that is supposed to come out 3 months later." Well, we've only heard more about Venom 2 because we've already had Venom. So we're already talking about Venom. And so the sequel is going to get more attention, all that kind of stuff. I haven't heard anything about Morbius. They haven't started promoting it yet. I'm not surprised by that at this point. So at this point, nothing to see here yet. I'll tell you what though, I am fascinated by this movie. I thought it was a really intriguing casting. Look, Jared Leto is clearly, I don't care what you think about him. He's a super talented actor. He's a super talented Oscar-winning actor. You may or may not have liked his Joker iteration. I personally did. I know a lot of people didn't, and that's cool. But he is a very, very gifted actor. Doing a character like Morbius, which I think is really interesting. Again, I don't know if this movie is going to turn out to be complete hot garbage. I don't know if it's going to be the next Academy Award winner. But I'll tell you what, right now I am absolutely intrigued by this movie. I'm going to be curious to see how it starts to look once they start marketing the thing. All right, D. Try writes, did you see the Golden Globes? No, I did not. The host ended the show by telling them all to F off. Yeah, which was probably very scripted and very planned out. But no, I didn't see the Golden Globes. I don't generally sit down and watch them. I mean, usually each year I'll eventually watch a replay of it because, like I said, the Golden Globes do put on a good show. They put on a much better show than the Oscars do. The Oscars are 5,000 times more important, but I give credit where it's due. They put on a more enjoyable show. They really do. I think the Oscars can take a few hints from the Golden Globes. 50 Shades writes, did Jack Hines shoot himself in the foot from a professional point of view with his tweets? It feels like a lot of industry professionals wouldn't want to work with him now. Again, I don't, listen, I've addressed Jack Hind. I've said what needed to be said. I don't want to turn this whole thing into let's continue to gang pile on the guy. He said something, he said a few things and made some statements that were really stupid, insensitive, and shows that he has no cognizance of the surrounding situation and context that he's in. But I addressed it. And what I don't want to do is just continue to harp on the guy. He did something stupid. I responded to it. I don't now want us to carry on, or anybody to carry on any sort of campaign of let's ruin this guy's life. He said something stupid and he got responded to. And that's all fair. But I don't want to continue an ongoing gang pile thing. The basics of it is that something like that can't help but affect you. You make choices, there are consequences. And that might be one of them. But hey, like anything we face, even when we dig ourselves into a hole, we have opportunities in front of us to dig ourselves out. And he'll have that opportunity as well. Anyway, Lars Hansen writes, Collider Video, like it was in your days, can it survive today financially at all? Only on money from YouTube, Patreon / Super Chat. There's a lot of people in front and behind the cameras that you need to pay salary. Well, yeah, and by the way, that's a $50 thing. So I'll address this in its own video as well. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, Lars. What you're saying is true for little nobody channels like mine. Little nobodies like me and little nobody channels like mine, we can function and operate on that level. Larger operations like, say, Collider or others, they need to actually get income revenue from other sources. So they're probably going to be getting into some deals and sponsorship stuff, and it'll be on a different level and a different scale. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to have sponsorship of the John Campea Show. I really would. That would make my life a lot easier if I did. But I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to go out and get sponsors or anything like that. So it's probably not something you're ever going to see on the John Campea Show. But larger operations, they don't just make their money from YouTube. That's not really where they get their finances and their money. And I know that's not their strategy there. So they do have to go out and go above and beyond that. Anyway, I'll go a little bit deeper into that, Lars, when we answer your question in its own video. Thank you so much for asking, though, man. I appreciate that. All right. Min Tran writes, John, have you watched the CBC / Netflix Anne of Green Gables series? And if you have, your thoughts? No. Well, I mean, I used to watch some of the old CBC stuff, but I'll tell you what, I have spent time in Prince Edward Island, which is gorgeous, by the way. If you ever get a chance to go to Canada and visit Prince Edward Island, it's a very different place from a lot of the rest of Canada, but it's absolutely stunningly beautiful with their red sand beaches and all that kind of stuff, which is where, of course, Anne of Green Gables takes place. What is really funny, when I first visited Prince Edward Island, I realized in town, there's a lot of signs that are bilingual, not in English and French, which are the two official languages of Canada, but in English and Japanese. I'm like, why are there so many Japanese? Why are there so many Japanese signs in all the windows? And it's like, because the Japanese, apparently, I never knew this, love Anne of Green Gables. And apparently more than half of the tourism that comes into Prince Edward Island is Japanese tourists because they love Anne of Green Gables. Which I'm like, I never knew that. Murray Reich writes, I don't want to bring in politics, but I just want to say, like one guy's response to Kaepernick's recent tweet, that Iran will still not sign him too. Okay, Murray, I'm not going to touch that. I don't like talking politics or getting into anything political on this show. I, of course, have my own political beliefs, but here in this house, we are all movie fans together. Doesn't matter what our political leanings are. So I'm just going to say that, Murray. I'm just going to say that. All right, 50 Shades writes, Sendy. Sorry, John. Just wanted to see if my dog will respond to you saying, see, that's sometimes I had somebody once write in, they're writing blah, 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 and then wrote the words, "Hey, Google," just to see if my Google Home would make me respond. So I've had that done to me before, 50 Shades. By Odin's Beard sends in a $50 super chat. So we will be addressing this in its own standalone video as well, by Odin's Beard. And again, we've got a whole bunch of them already libraried up. And we're going to release them about an hour or two after we do the show. So you're going to see about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them come out, but then we've got more to do as well. So keep your guys' eyes open, by Odin's Beard, over the next couple of days for yours to be answered in its own video as well. And we thank you for supporting the channel on that level, my friend. All right, here we are. What are the chances that Matt Reeves, the Batman, yet again covers/shows the Wayne's murder? Dear God, I hope he doesn't. I'm pretty sure we have seen it in every Batman movie in some capacity. I think there's probably a decent chance he does, but there are different ways you can do it, right? You can spend a 5-minute scene on it, or you can cover it in a 30-second flashback. I think there's probably like a 60% chance that he covers it, but it'll be done more subtly and with much less screen time and not being a focus. Again, I'll address this deeper when I do your own standalone video, by Odin's Beard, because I think there's some other things to unpack there as well. I think it's a good question. And I think a lot of film fans right now and Batman fans are asking themselves that right now. Okay. Arib Hussein writes, considering the delays with the film, especially after Fox going over to Disney, do you believe Disney made some changes and intends to bring New Mutants concept into the MCU via the New Mutants? Nope, I don't. Now, be very clear here. I am not right now revealing to you guys that I have insider sources that have confirmed to me that the New Mutants is not going to be part of the MCU. I don't know. But if you're asking me to speculate as a fan, no, I've not seen anything that even remotely suggests that they're going to use that, either A, that the New Mutants are in the MCU at all, or that they'll be used as any sort of a gateway drug to bring them into the MCU. I've seen nothing to even remotely support that, so I'm going to guess no. All right, Kin writes, after watching the Star Wars trilogies, I figured out that I'm really just a fan of Luke and Vader, and that's why I was disappointed. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's fair to be... Look, just because you're a fan of Luke and Vader, that doesn't mean you are disqualified from liking other films if they worked for you. So I don't think just because you've decided you're just a fan of Luke and Vader that means you can't like the other films. And if you didn't like them, then it's only because they didn't have Luke and Vader. I don't think that. I think those movies could have still appealed to you if they worked for you. Clearly, they didn't work for you, and I don't think it can just be written off to just because they didn't have Luke and Vader. I think you could have enjoyed them if they worked for you, but clearly they didn't work for you, and I just like Rise of Skywalker could have worked for me, and it didn't. It's not because Luke Skywalker didn't come back to life. I would have loved it if Luke Skywalker came back to life, but that's not why I didn't like it. The movie still could have worked for me. It just didn't. That's all. All right. Groovy Don't Play writes, New Mutants looks great. Better way to end Fox's X-Men. I agree. I'm so glad that Dark Phoenix isn't going to be the final word on the Fox era of X-Men. And by the way, I don't think Dark Phoenix was a hot steaming pile of garbage. I didn't think it was good, but I didn't think it was the train wreck some other people make it out to be. I thought it had a good amount of redeeming qualities, just not a good film. But yeah, this is a better way to end it for sure. Dan Koklock writes, here's my top 10 of the decade in no particular order. Prisoners, fantastic. Denis Villeneuve. Sicario, also wonderful. La La Land, wonderful film. Hacksaw Ridge, absolutely fantastic. Mel Gibson probably should have won an Academy Award for that. The Florida Project, Willem Dafoe was great in that. Hunt for the Wilder People, Taika. Wind River, Wind River did not get that. Wind River should have gotten Oscar nominations. Not just because you got Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch in it. It just was that good of a movie. It should have gotten Academy Award nominations. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Avengers Infinity War, and Creed. Nice eclectic mix in there, Dan. That's a nice mix-up of films. You got a comic book movie, you got heavy drama, you got musical, you got, love the list. Wonderful, wonderful list. I dig that one a lot, Dan. Jared Graff writes, one of two. Hey, John, one of the many films I grew up watching is American Flyers. After seeing it for the first time after so many years, I see how campy it is, but I ended up liking it for different reasons. Have you experienced this with any movies? After watching a movie I hadn't seen in many years, that I had a different experience with it. This is going to sound weird. This is going to sound like a weird one. Pete the Dragon. Is that the actual name of it? I think it's what is it? Pete's Dragon, not Pete the Dragon. Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon. Now, I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the original mix animation. I believe it was like 1977. So I saw this as a kid and as a child. And then my parents got it like on VHS. It was one of the first movies they got on VHS for it. And I adored it. And by the way, I actually quite enjoyed the 2016 Pete's Dragon reimagining. Or was it 2015? Anyway, I like that film. I thought it was really charming and cute. That said, I remembered the original Pete's Dragon so fondly. But prior to the new movie coming out, it had been a while since I watched it. It had been a while since I watched that Pete's Dragon movie. So going in and watching it, again, it was a different experience. I still thought it was charming and cute, but it was a very different experience watching it as an adult than what I remembered as a kid. So that's one movie, Jared, that jumps out to me a lot when I think of films in those terms. That's the one. And by the way, if you haven't seen the 2015 or 16 version of Pete's Dragon, not the greatest movie in the world, but I thought it was really cute and charming. I would suggest checking it out. Robert Redford's in it too, by the way, and I thought he's great in it. Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hey, John, two-part question here. All right. If the new era of Star Wars is set 400 years before Skywalker, over under 25%, Revan will make an appearance. 25%'s low. I don't think he will, but I do think the chances are better than 25%. So I'm going to go over 25% of that. Secondly, with Just Mercy and 1917 getting expanded releases, do you think Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker will remain the box office king this week? Well, what opens this week? Let me pull open the box office thing because I cannot remember. Like, I know we got those films expanding. Where's the calendar? There it is. So there's different. So the January 10th weekend, we got 1917, Just Mercy. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. Going into its fourth week, Rise of Skywalker is probably going to drop another 50 to 55%. It made 33-ish this weekend, so you're probably looking at the movie making like 16 or 17 million. With the Oscar buzz for 1917, so the question is, really, do we think Just Mercy or 1917 can make more than, say, $17 million this weekend? Because that's going to be right around where the Rise of Skywalker is going to make 15, 16, or $17 million next weekend. So the question is, can 1917 or Just Mercy make more than that? I'm going to say yes. With the awards buzz, particularly, I think probably 1917. I think 1917 can make more than $17 million. So yeah, I'm going to guess, and it's just a guess, but I'm going to guess that The Rise of Skywalker's box office reign ends at 3 weeks as number one. I think next week maybe 1917 is the number one film. But we'll find out. All right, Jack Norton writes, You poo-poo all over prequels all the time. I do. The prequels are, I don't know what any of this means. Are keck not cringe, John? Just admit it already. The prequels are horrible. They're terrible. Now, you may not feel that way, and that's great. If you enjoy them, that's awesome. I'm not trying to yuck on your yum, but when people like yourself want to ask me about the prequels, and you're going to bring up the prequels, I'm going to tell you my honest opinion. I think they're terrible. There are things in them that I enjoy, that I talk about quite frequently. There are things about the prequels that I enjoy, but overall, I think they're absolute terrible. And you're not wrong for liking them, and I'm not wrong for disliking them. If you like them, that's great. I celebrate that. I want everybody to love every movie, even movies I don't like. So if you like them, good on you. All right, let's see. Josh J writes, Favorite Rolling Stone song? Paint It Black. Just I remember there was a show, actually there was a couple of like Vietnam movies and shows that use that. I want to paint it black, no colors any. It's just, there's something really visceral about the song, you know, so I'm gonna go with Paint It Black. Gaither Lesage writes, when is Best Movie Worst Movie podcast coming back? Again, I was just saying it's coming back in just a couple of weeks. Me and Cody were just talking about it. We're going to be recording the new season of Best Movie Worst Movie, the podcast, in late January and mid to late January, and then we should have the first new episodes up and online by the end of this month. So that's when Best Movie, Worst Movies come back. Thank you for asking, Gaither. Thomas Soley writes, and we just got about 3 or 4 more minutes here, guys. Thomas Soley writes, congratulations to the Seahawks, as I currently seek out a voodoo woman to put a curse on them. Also, Ricky was the only good thing about the Globes. I don't know, man. I only saw one thing in the Globes, and that was that Tom Hanks presentation. I thought the Tom Hanks presentation was great. I really do. That was a great moment. The Charlize Theron. And by the way, the Ellen thing, it was a great moment too. The introduction of her was very touching and moving. I thought that was very nice. I saw that clip as well online. I didn't see any of the rest of it, but I usually just assume that the Golden Globes put on a pretty good show. Good luck on finding your voodoo woman. All right, Ronnie Yoakum writes, do you plan on playing Final Fantasy VII Remake when it releases on PS4? Yeah, I probably do. I spent a lot of time playing that original Final Fantasy VII. I spent a lot of time playing Final Fantasy VII. I mean, this is back when I was living with my buddies. And yes, I am absolutely going to give a shot playing to it when the remastered version comes out. Arun Baburaj writes, I really appreciate the way you carried yourself for the past few days with all the things going on. Shows you are a great leader and would love to buy you a beer if we meet. Love from India. Well, thank you so much, Arun. Those are very kind words, and I thank you for that. Unfortunately, you'd probably have to buy me a Diet Coke because I don't actually drink alcohol. Not for any reason other than the fact that I just don't like the taste. I just don't like the taste of alcohol, and I certainly, and this sounds weird for a Canadian, I don't like the taste of beer. I know, they threatened to revoke my passport many, many times for saying I don't like the taste of beer. It's like, how Canadian can you possibly be? I don't know, I'm pretty damn Canadian, but unlike a lot of my Canadian brethren, I do not like beer. But thank you for the kind words, Arun, I appreciate it. Rcast6 writes, props to you, Campea, for keeping your cool during the audio issues last week. When the F word got cut out at the end, nearly made me lose it at my desk. For those of you who don't know what Rcast is talking about, we had a massive audio problem during one of our shows last week. And you got to understand this about me. Nothing I hate more than failing our audience. I hate it when I fail my audience. I hate it when I fail our viewers. I hate it when I fail the community. Especially with stupid little technical problems. And because I get humiliated by it, I feel like I failed the community. I feel like I failed. And so we're like, okay, guys, well, we got this audio issue, and I guess we're just going to have to pull the plug on this broadcast. So I apologize. And I hit stop the broadcast, but I forget sometimes that when I hit stop the broadcast actually does continue for another second or two. And for those of you watching, you were treated to me losing my shit. Because as soon as we got off the air, I said, okay, we'll talk to you guys later, bye-bye. And I hit stop, and I immediately pulled my headphones off, and I was like, fuck, and I smashed my headphones on the ground, and the smashed headphones are still over there, which is why I'm using these cheap $7 headphones right now. I was so pissed because I hate failing the community. And listen, there have been times, it's not the first time that's happened. I remember back when I was still running Movie Talk and all that kind of stuff, a technical problem would happen that would ruin the broadcast. And, you know, we have members of our community, we have members of the film fan community who invest their time to come and hang out with us while we do these shows. And I want to honor that, because that is a huge honor that you as a film fan give to us doing these shows, investing your time and spending your time with us. That is a huge honor you've bestowed upon us whenever you do it. That's a huge honor, and that is not lost on me. And so when I fail that, I get mad, I get hot, I get real hot, and I melt down, and but anyway, that's just me. Okay, last couple of questions here, guys, and then we're gonna have to end today's show, unfortunately. Lazarus Paris writes, what if they continue the Marvel Spider-Man series in which Peter grows up and eventually mentors Miles? Would love to see a live-action Black Spider-Man. I don't think so. I don't like the idea. I like having one Spider-Man in the movie universe, and I love what they're doing with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There's no need to muddy the waters there, and having live-action Spider-Man here, this Spider-Man over there, and listen, we've got Peter Parker now, who's been in the comics for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. He's been in the MCU for a couple of years. I personally like the idea of just keeping it where it is. And I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best comic book movie of the year that it came out, was the best animated movie of the year that when it came out. And I thought it was the third best film of the year overall. And I'm just really I'm just excited to see where they take Miles in that medium. And then I just want to see what they do with Peter in this medium. And I'm personally not for the idea of crossing them over. Not yet. I just love both individual ones so much right now. Don't mess with it. I want just them to keep going with their things there. That's just my opinion on that at any rate. Ronnie Yoakum writes, could Marvel create a Hulk Disney Plus series without the distribution rights? No, because even putting it on Disney Plus is distribution. See, some people erroneously thought, oh, you could do it on TV because that doesn't count. Yes, it does. That's still distribution. Just because you're not distributing it to a movie theater, you can distribute it to Netflix, you can distribute it to a DVD company, you can distribute it to Disney Plus. That's still distribution. So no, one of the things they cannot do right now, if they have not got the distribution rights back, I should say, one of the things they cannot do right now is they can't do a standalone Hulk show. Can't do it unless Universal decides to distribute it to Disney Plus. That's the only way to do that. So the Schmodown Entertainment Network, they send in, Christian, sends in just because have a great show. Don't think, Christian, that the $9.99 makes up for like the 8 lunches you owe me. I'm just saying, don't think that makes up for that. Don't think that makes up. Actually, you know, if I'm being realistic, I probably owe him a lunch. Thanks for sending that in, guys. Rune also writes, for 2.5 years, you were Banner. Yesterday you became Hulk. Love for sticking to what you believe. Watched your rant multiple times. Pure gold. Well, thank you for that, Arun. I thank you for the support. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Anonymous writer writes in, do you think Pedro Pascal's performance as the Mandalorian is Emmy worthy, even though it's mostly voice acting his part? Not a chance. No. I liked him as Mandalorian very much, but just no, absolutely not. No way, shape, form, or how. No way. So no. Collins E writes, nearly 5,500 live viewers. Glad to see the best film fan community online growing. Well, thank you so much. It always floors me that we have as many people watch us live as we do. Thank you so much to everybody who's been here and been a part of the show here, even now that we're over 2.5 hours, and we'll wrap it up here with these last two ones. Micro Swain writes, hi, do you think Disney made changes with the New Mutants? I don't think so. And certainly at least not significant ones. And I haven't heard of any real significant changes that have been done since they took it over. So we might find out they might have made some changes, but from what I understand, and I could be wrong, from what I understand, no. And Nathan Taylor, last one we're going to take here today right now, writes, I sometimes go back and rewatch your old videos with John Schnepp and they make me smile. Dude, me too. I really do. Actually, it's funny. Just a week or two ago, I was rewatching the day they announced that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman. John Schnepp and I quickly jumped on YouTube and we did a live stream talking about Ben Affleck becoming Batman, and that while everybody else was laughing at the casting, we loved it. So that is something that really stood out to us as well. All right. For everybody else, from Dumbledore Calrissian, Johnny Five, Jacob Silvers, Wella Bedam, and everybody else all the way on up, do not worry. I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later today to make sure we answer and address all the remaining questions that you guys have there as you take a look at my show logo, because I apparently cannot hit the right button because it's just been one of those days. So for all you guys who sent in those questions today, don't worry. Your questions are getting answered properly in a video today in the companion video that's going to come a little bit later on in the day. Keep your guys' eyes open for that. By the way, guys, I do just want to remind you that you can actually start sending in questions for tomorrow's show anytime you want by using that tip link that's in the top line of the description below. And we want to thank everybody Number one, for honoring us by spending time with us here on the live stream today. But number two, I want to thank all you guys who sent in questions for two very important reasons. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about, so we thank you for that. But also, you supported the channel while you were doing it, and we want to thank you guys for being the types of people that you actually support the content that you enjoy watching. And myself, Robert, Ray, Fact Checker Jonathan, Chris, Aaron, everybody else involved in the John Campea YouTube channel, we all thank you very, very much for that. All right, guys, keep your guys' eyes open for that companion video a little bit later. The John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Robert Meyer-Burnett will be back as well. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. I appreciate it deeply. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.